What's going on? Happy Thursday, everybody. And for the first time on the show, Craig is here as our esteemed guest, not just announcing titles tonight. Craig, thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for having me. I hope I don't bore people to death.
Craig is preparing wildly for this, had a spreadsheet of all the titles that were announced and everything. I'm eager to see how much more he can say tonight than me, because there are many of these this week that I know
Okay.
nothing about.
No, yeah, I needed the spreadsheet so I could say something, not so I could say a lot.
How has the last month been? It's been what, 3 weeks since we did the announcement show, I think.
It's been extremely busy.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, we've had to shuffle our schedule around for some titles again because uh, discovered some major audio issues with one we didn't know about.
Right.
Um, we've in the last like 2 weeks, I think we've signed two, three, 4 or 5 films just in the last couple of weeks. So
That's a
that was
lot in a couple of weeks.
that was we weren't expecting it all to happen at once, but it did. So
Right.
um, that's good. And then a title that I've been teasing forever is finally being scanned. Uh,
Nice.
I don't know if anyone saw the tweet of the sad condition of that negative, but I'm extra glad we're doing it now.
Yeah, we shared that picture in the Discord and had a long conversation about what it could be, because that looks to be in pretty rough shape.
For 29 years old, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They keep it out in a shed in the backyard, or like.
Well, for those that don't know, Craig primarily right now is working restoration for Deaf Crocodile, but in the past, you've worked for IMAX. We did Cinelicious, Arbalos, Deaf Crocodile. Anything else film related that we could highlight tonight that you've done?
I think that's about it. Yeah, IMAX for 11 years, Cinelicious for about 4, and then we 4 of us co-founded Arbalos, uh, and then the 4 of us split off. So 2 stayed with Arbalos, and Dennis and I formed Deaf Crocodile. So it's all
Uh,
up to
out
speed.
of out of all the films that you've done and have been released on disc, can you remember which one of those was like the most difficult restoration to do?
Hmm. Define difficult.
Uh,
Longest or
the one that you had to do the most comprehensive work for.
um. Probably, I don't know. The last movie was in pretty rough shape. Um, just for the sheer uh, volume of work, Satan
Right.
Tango was kind of a nightmare. Um,
I mean, a 7-hour film, that makes sense.
yeah, it was like 7 hours, 20 minutes, and all at 4K. So that one was rough. Um, no, they all, a lot of them, very often they seem like, oh, this one will be easy, and then the more you dig into it, you're like, no, it's. I just need to keep telling myself, like, no, it's going to take this long, even if it looks like it's in good shape. It's
Right.
not really.
Let's see. So, first, a couple things. My mom is in the chat, and it's my mom's birthday today. So, happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Craig just had a recent birthday as well. Let's see. Any recent pickups you want to talk about with the people? I know you've been highlighting some in chat. Any that you've received and maybe
Um,
watched?
well, yeah, I mean, there's two new ones this week. I was happy to get the 4K um, Legend of Boggy Creek,
Mm,
just because I've always heard good things about it, and I think our friend Steve Bissett, I think he did a commentary for this, but it doesn't say on the disc, so I don't know until I pop it in.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and that one you can order. I guess you order directly from I think it's the daughter of the filmmaker. It's like straight from their
Yeah.
website, so it's kind of cool that they're actually getting the money.
And supposedly Orbit is getting some of those in if people don't want to order a single release from that site. Orbit should have some eventually. I'm not sure about any others, but what's kind of cool, they're sending this out in a very custom bubble mailer.
Yes, the bubble mailer is definitely custom. Yeah, it wasn't a surprise when I opened the mailbox, what I got.
Wonder what this is.
The other cool thing I got, and this is a film that I kind of was like, oh man, you know how much I like animation and I like restoring animation, and
right.
As far as I know, I don't think there's been a U.S. Blu-ray release. Is the Triplets of Belleville.
Oh, interesting.
Amazing. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it.
I have not.
It's absolutely incredible. There's almost, if maybe no dialogue in it. And it's about this guy training to ride in the Tour de France. And I think his mother's his trainer. It's wild, and the animation is absolutely incredible. But I found on eBay there was a Korean release that's super cool. It comes in this nice slip box. It's got a big book in it, and it's a beautiful release. Wasn't that expensive on eBay.
Interesting. Let's see. A lot of people excited about getting visitors from the Arcana Galaxy in. David is asking, can I expect a purple mailer and a director card with a Kickstarter visitor from Arcana?
Yes, the little movie cards have been going out with them. Not everything goes out in the purple mailer, but because we still have some of the white ones left, but most of them will be. And I think I'll admit my faux pas right here live. The first batch I sent out, I forgot to put the postcards in. So there's a few. They got the movie cards, but not the postcard.
Right.
So we'll have to figure out something for those folks. But yours is actually packed up and waiting to go out tomorrow.
I got a label notice.
I didn't know. I was like, I know that guy. So thank you.
Of course. I've got two things I want to highlight. One is the amazing turnaround time. The week that you were on displaying titles, Mondo Macabro came on 2 days prior, and they announced these two titles, and they're already in my hands. We're at, that's been 23 days. That was the first time anybody had ever known that they were releasing them, and they're already here in my hands 23 days later.
That is the opposite of what most of the labels do. They announce something, and then a year and a half later it comes out.
Right. Speaking of that, this exactly happened with this release, and today, out of nowhere, I didn't know I was getting this. MVD sent me the Toxic Avenger 4K collection. This is all 4 of the Toxic Avenger films on 4K, and people are clamoring to find out what these look like. HDR10, no Dolby Vision on these. I put all 4 of them in already. I will say they look very filmic. They were scanned by Vinegar Syndrome, and I believe they handled most of the restoration work. They look like, if you have watched Vinegar Syndrome 4K releases in the past, it looks like a Vinegar Syndrome 4K. There is a problem, and I do have to talk to MVD because I am not sure if this is going to be widespread, so don't take this as gospel. Discs 2 and 3 for Toxic Avenger 2 and Toxic Avenger 3 are basically unwatchable for me. I put them in, and they start skipping immediately. The discs were clean. It's not my player because the other ones worked exactly the way they should. But they started skipping literally on the Lloyd Kaufman intro before the movie even started. And then trying to skip forward a little bit, it would work for a second, and then it would start glitching. It's rough. But I will say, it's a surprisingly nice set for a Troma set. Decent box. All of this is embossed, so it's all textured. The box is fairly flimsy. Did come with a postcard, art card thing that says, "We loved you then, and then we love you now more than ever," and it's signed, but it's printed signatures. It's not like they actually signed all of these. And then all 4 of the films get their own art. Each one has 2 discs, and I'm kind of impressed that they went. You could say this is just low budget, but I think they actually tried to make this semi-nostalgic on the back of all these. It's very old school Troma-esque. They look better than ever. I got to admit, they look pretty. They are surprisingly decent in terms of the video quality. It's Troma, so you don't know what to expect necessarily, but VS helped them, and you could tell they needed it. The first one is rough shape. I mean, that one is, gosh, I think around 35 years old at this point, and you could tell it was the one with the smallest budget, so it probably had the worst film source that they had at the time. The next 3, you could tell they look a little bit better, but yeah, the second and third disc not working at all for me is a very big problem, I would assume.
Well, let's hope it's not the entire run, because that would just be a nightmare.
Yeah, replacing 2 UHD discs with, I guarantee this sold a lot of pre-orders. That would be a nightmare of a replacement program.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Have you seen any of the Toxic Avenger films ever?
I have not. I believe, I don't know, somebody involved in the first one, I think, went to my tiny little film school, because there was a Toxic Avenger autographed poster in the school, and yeah, the only 2 people of note to come out of that school were that guy and Jamie Farr from MASH, which is
and Craig Rogers.
And the funny thing is if you're in the men's room in one of the stalls, someone had written on the bathroom door, "Jamie Farr shat here."
Perfect. Exactly perfect. So film discussion tonight. After all the announcements, we're going to be talking about Robert De Niro's, our favorite performances of De Niro outside of the Scorsese team-ups, because he did so many of those, and it would be very easy just to pick 5.
Yeah, you and I would have a top 5 list that was pretty much the same.
Yeah. This is a topic that was an obvious for you. Why De Niro? What do you appreciate about De Niro's performances?
He's just kind of the first actor that I realized was like, oh, this guy's kind of special. It's almost similar to when I grew up, enjoying reading comics and collecting comics, and it wasn't until I got there was a Swamp Thing issue I had gotten. It was in a batch of books, and I opened it up, and the artwork just like, it was the first time ever I went back and I went to see who drew it, because I was like, I know they always put the credits in the front, but
right,
I was just like, wow. Similar thing with De Niro. It was like I was rapidly collecting VHS tapes, and started with Scorsese and Coppola and those kind of films, and so liked De Niro, and so anytime I saw a VHS tape that he was in, it didn't matter what it was, I grabbed it, and I was just like, wow, he's really good.
What was, do you remember the first De Niro performance you saw?
The first one I saw was probably Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I first saw it, I was probably a teenager, and as a teenager, it was, I don't know, it was kind of slow. Like the film didn't wow me the first time I saw it. And even Raging Bull, first time I saw it, I was like, clearly I'm missing something. Like, everyone says this is like one of the greatest films ever with one of the greatest performances ever, and it's my favorite director and actor. And I watched it again, and then I watched it again, and like the third time, I was like almost weeping at the end, and I was like, oh, I get it. It took 3 viewings, but but that's usually kind of a sign of a good film too. It's there's more than just the surface going on, and because if that's the case, then you understand it immediately and you forget it immediately,
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to think of this before I asked the question to see if I could prepare, and this is very much going to date myself. I can't remember. I think it's between one of 2. I think it was either Analyze This or Meet the Parents, and it just shows what age I was when those came out, because before that, I was too young to see any of his films, and those came out right when I was hitting the age of starting to branch out into those sort of things. So
It's funny that your first two De Niro films would be comedies, because
yeah,
he didn't do that until the late '80s.
yeah.
But it also means that you're considerably younger than me.
Unfortunately, there's no way to play that off. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was probably Analyze This, just based on that one came out first, and I was old enough to see that around when it came out, so it's probably that one.
Yeah, and that one he's kind of playing off of his old characters,
Yeah, his own stereotypes.
Which was, have you seen The Freshman with Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando?
Yep.
Yeah, kind of a similar thing, except that one was much more intentional, like he's playing the Godfather.
Right. Loving some of these comments. A lot of people that are into these. Carrie Mulligan says, besides the family won't be mentioned.
Yes, it will.
Look at that. Already calling it. Sulako wants to know, anybody get the Cutthroat Island 4K Steelbook? I have not, but I love the way it looks for sure. Barney, the Cantankerous, says, hey, Craig, saw you posted the Pied Piper piece on CAF. Didn't know you were an OA collector.
I am.
Let's see. Katie says, meet the parents also.
Oh, that's my friend Katie.
Nice. Midnight Run was probably my first, says Ronnie. Midnight Run's a good one, too. Let's see. I was going to bring up one more thing, and I forgot to grab it first, so I apologize. I wanted to highlight, I had it right here on top and just didn't take it out, that it came. I got the other version, too, and everybody should be checking out Visitors from the Arcana Galaxy from Deaf Crocodile. And yeah, that is why Craig is here, because he's amazing at what he does. Are we ready to talk about some announcements?
Sure.
Are you sure? First up, go ahead. Okay. First up, Imprint announced their titles for the month of December. These are all coming on December 27th. They're all Blu-ray this month and all limited to 1,500 copies. The first one, Film Focus, Marlon Brando, Volume 1. This is one of their hardbox box sets, and it has Sayonara, The Fugitive Kind, One-Eyed Jacks, The Ugly American, Bedtime Story, and A Countess from Hong Kong. What do you want to tell me about Marlon Brando tonight?
Well, I mean, I'd assume most everyone knows he's, at least for a long time, was considered America's greatest actor.
Yeah, he's all right, I guess.
Kind of started wasn't the first, but the first major like method actor, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about a bit more later as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the box set goes, I just recently got the Film Focus on Gene Hackman from them.
Ooh, nice.
And it was a nice box, good looking box. I'm assuming this one is probably equally as nice. But yeah, Brando's great.
Yeah, this should be great. And I'm not sure if I said it the first time, but this is Marlon Brando Volume 1, which implies they have more coming.
Yeah, it does imply that, doesn't it?
These are all from between 1957 to 1967. So if they're going to go chronologically, it could be. They got some others that you might be able to infer what is coming. But this is an insane month for Imprint. That's not even like the big cornerstone. A lot of people are clamoring over this one. We've got a 7-disc hardbox release of Directed by Sidney Lumet, Volume 1. And this has The Pawnbroker, The Group, The Deadly Affair, Child's Play, The Offense, and Serpico.
I mean, honestly, I've only seen, I think, one of those films.
Me too.
But I've seen, a number of his other films, and Directed by Sidney Lumet is all you really need to know. And
right,
those other films are going to be good.
I will say it is a little surprising that they didn't get the 4K disc for Serpico, considering Kino had it. It's nice that it's in the box. It's nice that everybody can have access to it. But I am kind of surprised they didn't go for that UHD.
I was a little surprised Serpico was in the box.
Yeah, me too. I would have thought that the studio would have.
Yeah, there's already a 4K out there somewhere else. It's the one that stands out in that group because it's the biggest film there.
Right.
So maybe they put it in there for that reason, but I personally, I probably would have rather had another title that I didn't know as well, because I've already got the Serpico 4K disc.
Right. I get that. I will say that to me, this is like the must-grab box of the month from Imprint. Obviously, Brando is going to be important, but to me, I think I'm more drawn to the Sidney Lumet box myself. Not to mention, the art looks freaking incredible on this.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. It's a cool looking box. And first thing I saw when I saw it was I was like, that's a great Christmas gift idea. And then I saw it's coming out after Christmas. So I was like, well, they didn't really think that through very well, did they?
After Christmas and shipping from Australia, so you'll actually get it about January 12th. Oops. Tony is pointing out that Serpico has different studios distributing it based on Australia versus the US. So it's Sony in Australia and Paramount in the US. Very interesting. That could be why. Huh.
I still think they should have used a different title.
Next up is Lenny from 1974. This is the story of Lenny Bruce, whose groundbreaking no-holds-barred style and social commentary was often deemed by the establishment as too obscene for the public, and somehow I have never seen this, even though I've always loved Lenny Bruce, and obviously it's Hoffman. It's going to be great. We get a new audio commentary by Daniel Kramer on this, an audio commentary by Nick Redman and Julie Kurgo. That's from the Twilight Time release. Then there is The Many Faces of Lenny Bruce on Film, which is a video essay, and a new video essay on the career of actress Valerie Perrin by Kat Ellinger, and then an interview with the editor, Alan Heim, on his collaborations with Bob Fosse. Anything on Bob Fosse or Lenny Bruce or Dustin Hoffman you want to share?
I mean, my notes I wrote for this is it's a legendary film by a legendary filmmaker starring a legendary actor about a legendary comedian. Just buy the damn thing.
Yes. I would not be shocked if it's got another US Blu-ray.
Somehow have not seen this.
Wow.
It's been on my I need to see this list for a long time, and somehow it just keeps falling through the cracks, and that disc might solve that. Or at least it'll get in my house and I'll eventually get to see it.
Very interesting. This is one that I imagine is going to sell very well for them, especially considering the Twilight Time Blu-ray has been out of print for a very long time.
And I'm assuming, did you say, is this a new transfer restoration or?
The biggest problem with Imprint is they don't really explain that. They will just say this comes from a 1080p scan or something like that. Right. If it's one that they are really excited about how good it looks, sometimes they will say from a brand new 2023 restoration done by Paramount. Otherwise,
but
you don't get any information.
So this could just be the Twilight Time.
Sadly, that's likely.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. But it's accessible. It'll be in print, and people can find it. And Sibner is now quoting you. Just buy the damn thing. Yeah, Imprint, I don't think there's even been one title that Imprint has done restorations for themselves. They generally just license what is available from the studio.
Well, there's a chance the studio did something new with it since Twilight Time, because that was quite a long while ago, right?
Yeah, that's got to be, probably 8 years. I think it was about 2015. I should be able to pull that up fairly quickly. That came out in February of 2015. So that restoration was probably done maybe late 2013, early 2014.
Yeah. So hopefully Paramount's at least got a new scan or something.
Yeah, 9 or 10 years, hopefully. Then George C. Scott in Islands in the Stream. This is the first time on Blu-ray in the world. This is from 1977. George C. Scott and the director Franklin J. Schaffner, who teamed so memorably, and Patton reunite in this compelling version of Papa Hemingway's posthumous novel. Scott plays Thomas Hudson, a sculptor whose self-imposed isolation in the Bahamas is ended by two forces: the visit of his sons and the outbreak of World War II. We got a new commentary from Sam Deegan on this one.
Hey, she's only supposed to work for us.
Vinegar Syndrome begs to differ. And then a new video essay on this by Daniel Kramer that is called Survival Scars, Franklin J. Schaffner as auteur. And so all around, this seems like a pretty incredible disc. Hopefully.
That sounds really interesting to me. I'd never heard of the film. When I heard the title, I just heard Kenny Rogers in my head. But when people ask, what my top 10 movies are, Patton is always in the top 10. So George C. Scott and that director teaming up again for an Ernest Hemingway story. That's pretty interesting to me.
Sounds like it'll be an incredible comedy.
Yeah, right.
And then I believe this is the last one from Imprint, King of the Gypsies from 1978. This is again coming in December. This is going to have a new audio commentary by Daniel Kramer on it. I think that's the third time I've said his name just for these months of titles.
Yep.
New interview with the editor, Paul Hirsch, and then the Trailers from Hell segment is on there. And this is supposed to be great. This is based on the 75 book King of the Gypsies by Peter Moss. What did you write down on the spreadsheet for this one?
This one, vaguely heard of the title, but what a cast! Holy cow! Like, if you look at the list of names in this thing, like Sterling Hayden, like it's one of his last films. Like, it's got a stacked cast.
Eric Roberts, Shelley Winters, Susan Sarandon, Brooke Shields, Annette O'Toole, and Judd Hirsch. That's a
but most
hell
importantly,
of a
Sterling Hayden.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. 1978. I'm eager for this one as well.
And I like the artwork. That slipcover art is beautiful.
Yeah, really well done. Nice style on this. I'm into it. I am into it. And then Indicator came out of nowhere with some titles. We are getting these all in the UK only. These are not US titles. First one is An American Tragedy, a Joseph von Sternberg film from 1931. This got a 2019 restoration from a 4K scan. There's an audio commentary with Josh Nelson on there. Tony Raines does an extensive discussion on Joseph von Sternberg's Little Seen Gem. Video essay by Tag Gallagher. Some promotional materials, new subtitles, and of course, it'll have a booklet with a new essay by Imogen Sarah Smith, some archival interviews and articles, overview of contemporary critical responses and film credits. How about von Sternberg?
Yeah, I mean, another legendary filmmaker. I'd not heard of this particular film, but new releases of films from the 1930s on Blu-ray is always a good thing. Keep them alive and people seeing them. Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead in spoilers, but 3 more that we're about to talk about. So yeah, I was very excited as I went one by one. I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. Oh, there's another 4. I'm like, so thank you, Indicator.
Yeah, Indicator giving us a very early Christopher Walken film here, as you'll see by the cover. Next one is from 1931. This has Claudette Colbert, Frederick March. This is Honor Among Lovers, directed by Dorothy Arzner. We got Ginger Rogers in this one as well. Audio commentary by Eloise Ross, Lucy Bolton on Ginger Rogers. There's the academic assesses the early career of the much-loved star. There's a selection of short films directed by Arzner for the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps during World War II. And there's going to be a booklet as well by Pamela Hutchinson, some archival items. Anyone in this that you want to highlight specially?
Not particularly. I'm again, Indicator always every disc I've ever bought from them has been really well done, both picture, sound, the bonus materials, the packaging. It's always top notch. So yeah, another classic film coming out from Indicators. It's just good news.
Yeah, yeah, they do some pretty great stuff. They are still like one of the most consistent labels in terms of everything they're able to get for their releases. No matter what you get from them, if you turn it over, it's like a freaking paragraph and a half of what they were able to compile, and
Yeah.
it's impressive. I mean, they do great.
I mean, to be completely honest, we restored and put out Dennis Hopper's The Last Movie with Arbalos, and then theirs came out, and I was like, God damn it, it's better. They used our restoration, but yeah, I mean the gorgeous packaging and they got, I think they got David from Fidelity in Motion to do the authoring, and it was just, I was like, I told everyone at Arbalos, I was like, we got to put a stop to this, like like we can't do all the work and then have someone else do a better release. So yeah, Indicator does great stuff.
That brings up a good question, and I'll bring this down so I'm not hindering Indicator's work here. I just watched the incredible film that I freaking loved, Chameleon Street, that Arbalos just released, and it was a film that you restored at Arbalos. Chameleon Street.
Oh, Chameleon Street. Yeah, that was the last thing I did for Arbalos.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there anything else coming that you did the restoration for? Okay, man, that movie looks incredible.
It's a great movie. It's like it's just a brilliant film. I hadn't heard of it, and it's one of those films which happens a lot when you see like a really really bad transfer of something and it just looks like cheap video.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, then you see an actual proper scan and you get it graded and you're like, oh no, like it doesn't look like cheap video anymore.
Well, and Chameleon Street is one that it could really be sort of harmed by a bad transfer because it's not a single filming style all the way through. There's like almost surrealist type moments that happen in the film, and based on that, there's like, I don't want to say lesser, but there's different styles of filmmaking that happens based on different scenes, and you'll go from complete clarity to something that's meant to look sort of lo-fi and like buzzy, I guess, and it's meant to look like that, but without that scan and restoration you did, oh man, that could have looked real. Like, I bet a VHS of that would have been awful.
Well, I think there was a standard def video online that we were able to look at it to, like, do we want to pursue this film? And at first I was just like, because yeah, it looks so cheap. But yeah, and then when I actually saw what it's supposed to look like, I was like, oh, this is a great movie. The thing that stands out for me, I realized the subject matter and the filmmaking is stellar. Like it's but for whatever reason I get stuck on how incredible the makeup effects were when he was the werewolf for Halloween. I was like, this is a low budget movie and that was a damn good werewolf. Yep. Like, how'd they pull that off?
Yeah.
And then why do horror movies that do werewolves do them so poorly?
and we don't get enough of those either way. I mean, poor or not. Yeah, I would love to see more werewolf movies.
But yeah, Chameleon Street was fantastic. I was glad to have my hands on that one. And
it's a stellar release. They got some good special features on there. It looks beautiful. I'm glad you were able to do that one because, man, that was an impressive first time watch for me this year, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, and so few people have seen it.
All right, going back to Indicator. Next one is Love Me Tonight from 1932. This one also has Charlie Ruggles. We got Myrna Loy in this one, C. Aubrey Smith, and Jeanette McDonald. I can't speak tonight. And this one is going to have an audio commentary with Glenn Kenny and Farron Smith Name. Jeff Andrew on Love Me Tonight, an in-depth discussion on the classic musical by the writer and critic, and then some excerpts from the Hollywood on Parade from 1932, and then a writing essay on this with Phil Concannon, archival interviews. I know very little bit about this.
Likewise, my note I wrote down for this one was we're now 3 in to the Indicator releases, and I just said thank you, Indicator. I do know the name Ruben Mamoulian, and so
Yeah.
I just looked to see why do I know that name. He was the director of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde back in 1931.
Oh, that explains it.
So, Blood and Sand, The Mark of Zorro. So, yeah, he did a few big films back in the 1930s. So that's why the name seemed familiar. But yeah, it's again like there's so few of films from this time period coming out in beautiful Blu-rays. So, and I love that I'm assuming this is all the original artwork that they're using for the covers. It's beautiful.
Usually, I think they do. Yeah, it's baffling to me that some of the labels choose something that doesn't sell the film very well, and this, especially from around the 1930s, you got to go with the original on those.
Well, I know somebody actually just asked me that question on Twitter today. They're like, I love the artwork you use, but why do you and most other labels not use the original artwork? And partly it's don't want to use something without the right permissions, and finding out who actually has the rights to that artwork can be very difficult. The chances are slim that anyone would, cause a stink, but at the same time, I wouldn't want someone using artwork I did without at least asking permission,
Right.
So that's why we don't typically use it, is because, if we can't track down who owns the rights, it's just like, well, we'll come up with some new artwork.
In the chat, Summoner just asked, when is the last Indicator sale of the year? And usually it starts in mid-November. I just went while we were answering that and looked. I did a bit of a sale roundup, and the zine that came out a couple weeks ago listed everything that I expected to be coming for sales for the rest of the year. Indicator, usually middle of November. So hopefully we'll see that again. And then Desire, coming from Indicator. This is December 11th, and this is from 1936. We got Marlene Dietrich and Gary Cooper. And this is one directed by Frank Borzage. This is going to have an audio commentary with Nathaniel Bell and David Del Val, which is awesome. It's a couple years old. I don't know if this got delayed or if that was for another release. It might have been for the Kino. I'd have to look that up. It probably was for Kino. And then Nathaniel Morris speaks on Gary Cooper. The film historian and curator discusses the stardom and style of one of Hollywood's most iconic stars. Radio play adaptation of the film's screenplay. And then we got limited edition new essay by Christine Newland, archival interviews and articles. Just, again, another solid Indicator release. Yeah.
I mean, the 2-star names there are huge. So
yeah, they're probably all right. Antonio says, the important thing is that although you and other boutique labels don't use the original poster art, you employ artists that compose a piece of work that equals or surpasses the original work.
It is extremely important to me.
Yeah, you are very specifically art focused.
Yeah, as somebody pointed out earlier, I collect original artwork, and I've for about a decade I was a art sales commission manager for some artists. It's important that we don't use artwork without permission, to me, and also there's so many really talented artists out there. I see discs that pop out, and it's almost always the big studio discs where the artwork it's beyond atrocious. It's like they got a 5th grader and plopped him down in front of Photoshop and said, "Here, give me something. You got 30 minutes." and
Right.
I just don't get it. Like,
There's one that we're going to talk about tonight that is very specifically pretty rough artwork, and I didn't include the standard artwork, but we're going to talk about a steelbook that is, yeah. Anyways, we'll get into that in just a minute. Then the Vinegar Syndrome announcements that we got last week. Sorry, Daryl is coming as a VSU. This is from 1985, and we're going to get more information on special features and all that later. This will have HDR. This is directed by Simon Wincer. This is one that Vinegar Syndrome has released something from Simon before, but I had never seen Daryl. Was Daryl something you saw younger?
I don't remember the details, but I know for sure I've seen it. I believe in the 80s it was one of those films that was on cable TV like two or three times a day. So I know I've seen it, and as a kid, I remember liking it, but my memory's not great to begin with. So a movie I saw on cable back in the 80s is not front of mind.
Yeah, that makes
sense. But I do remember, liking it. But if I recall, I think it feels like it's geared towards that age group, like teenagers like that age would really dig this. So I'm guessing the buyers of this disc will be people my age who were teenagers when it came out, because teenagers today don't buy physical media. And
some do, just not very many.
A few. I wish we could convert more, but
that's what we're trying here, Craig. Come on. Hilton wants to know, do you own any of Tony Stella's original art?
If he sold it, the Ilya Murmet's artwork would be on my wall, but he does not sell his art.
Love this comment too. Craig's forgotten more movies than many have ever seen.
Jeez, that's my friend Paul.
I figured that was somebody close.
Yeah, I can't. I don't. I'm so used to just staring at the chat window and being there. So not seeing it is. And then I tried pulling it up on another screen, and that just confused me. So because they're out of sync.
You can pull it up on your screen if you click on the word comments on the right-hand side there.
Well, look at that. See? Learn something new every day.
That's why I'm here. I got you. The next one, we had this announced previously, but they showed a little more details for the Prophecy 1, 2, and 3. This is going to be a 4K box set. And again, no special features. We just got some art, and you could pre-order this. Have you seen any of the Prophecy films ever?
I've seen the first one. I got to say, I kind of like that artwork too. I saw the first one, and I think I mentioned in the chat that my cinematography professor in film school was the DP on Prophecy 1 and 2.
Nice.
And I remember he was telling us then that watch Vigo because he's going to be a big star. Because he wasn't when those came out.
Right.
And then Lord of the Rings came out soon after, so he was right.
Yeah, this is one I know that I've seen the first one. I think I may have seen the second one, but I can't remember for sure. So probably
I remember enjoying the first one. It was, for it's what would you call it? Kind of a popcorn movie, kind of like just enjoy it. It's not going to change your life. You won't be contemplating it for months later, but
it's not a morality tale.
but fun.
Yeah. I agree. Then the next one, and this is kind of the big deal for me this week, the Vinegar Syndrome Lost Picture Show box set. And this has 10 films in this that were previously thought lost that are going to be released in this interesting box set that they're putting out. And
speaking of Tony Stella.
Yeah, the art on this is amazing. The way they're doing this massive collection comes with 2 thick, fully illustrated, perfect bound books of newly written essays and historical analysis covering each of the included films. And on top of the 10 films that are in this, it's going to include Elijah Drenner's new feature-length documentary called Against the Grain, which examines how genre film-focused home video companies have taken the charge in preserving, restoring, and releasing so many works which otherwise might have been lost to time. Now, first off, this box set got announced, and there are 10 films in this, plus the documentary, plus 2 books, and it was $75. I was shocked at that price. That is a very good price for this.
It tells me a couple things. They probably didn't have to pay for the films,
right?
Or got them for next to nothing. Luckily, they can do the restoration work in house.
Yep.
So their overhead costs on putting this together were quite low. So they could have still charged more. But it is a shockingly low price for a 10 film 2 book box set.
Plus a bonus full length documentary.
Yeah, I just hope that the Vinegar Syndrome fan base supports this. Because they're probably not the most amazing films.
Right.
But they don't deserve to disappear. So the fact that they did this and they put this out is awesome, and I hope it gets support so they'll do it again. Yeah,
this is one. Obviously, you're probably not going to buy this jumping into it expecting magical, life-changing films, kind of like we just said about Prophecy. But the big thing is art is art, and it deserves to be respected. And with 11 films and 2 books for $75. This is a miraculous price, and not to mention, it's a miracle that it even exists in the first place, because it's 10 lost films. It's something that is an astonishing achievement, just for the format in itself, and I'm glad that it's here. This is one that, like, it really feels quintessential Vinegar Syndrome for what they've done for years, even though I guarantee there are a lot of people that are not going to be happy that they're getting this as part of their subscription, because they expected a whole bunch of mainstream titles like Vinegar Syndrome has sort of been doing every other month or so for the last year and a half. But this is what Vinegar Syndrome was founded on. It was exploitation and adult films that were lost to time.
I was thinking about this, like it wouldn't surprise me if they've bought collections of films and these were in those collections and they were like, what can we do with these? They shouldn't disappear.
Right.
And then over time they're like, well, shoot, let's put a box set, we'll put them all together. Which is it's a good idea, because individually trying to sell these would probably be more difficult. So a really good price on a really big box set is a good way of getting these out there. And as you said, every film is somebody's favorite. There's going to be people that are going to love some stuff on there.
Oh yeah. And speaking of what's on there, did not even mention the titles yet. So we've got Oliver Drake's forgotten proto-slasher, The Las Vegas Strangler, also known as No Tears for the Damned. Larry Crane's murder mystery Nudie, Beware the Black Widow. Joe Sarno's stirring seaside drama, Deep Inside. Albert Zugsmith's notorious bad taste thriller, Violated. Walter Burns' underground sexual freakout, Barbara. James Newslow's nuclear holocaust scare film, Red Midnight. Titus Mode's ode to forgotten Americana, The Last of the American Hobos. Carlos Tobalina's erotic morality tale, What's Love. Charles Nizet's sex and gore frenzy, The Sex Serum of Dr. Blake, which is the original cut of Voodoo Heartbeat. And finally, Don Greer's jaw-dropping and unnerving kiddie film, in quotation marks, and musical, The Rare Blue Apes of Cannibal Isle, also known as The Pirates of Cannibal Isle. And I got to admit, that Rare Blue Apes film, the stills from that, looked kind of creepy as hell.
I love how half the films have at least 2 titles.
Yeah. 2 titles, and they were lost to time. So yeah.
They tried selling it once and it didn't sell. We're like, we'll recut it, we'll change the name, try again.
Perfect. Yeah, the MSRP on this was $120. So if this lasts to a sale, it'll be $60. This will be an interesting one to see how people respond to it. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I hope people buy it.
It's a big deal. I think this shows a little bit of Vinegar Syndrome getting back to their roots and maybe, hitting some of those more studio-friendly titles for a little while and then being like, well, wait. We still have some Vinegar Syndrome left in us, and here's something that we would have done years ago if we had the pedigree then.
Well, the funny thing is that you're saying people are seeing this and they're surprised that Vinegar Syndrome is putting this out. I saw them putting out Patrick Swayze movie, and I was like, what?
Yeah, there was. I will say
that seems. I was like, how did what?
There was some whiplash over the last couple of years because Vinegar Syndrome got super popular at the start of the pandemic for some reason, and all of a sudden they could release Freeway and Roadhouse and Showgirls and everybody that has been with Vinegar Syndrome for years, like myself. We're seeing people online going, "Where's the Vinegar Syndrome that I was a fan of 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that only released adult films and crazy exploitations?" And then they release Showgirls and everybody's happy for a little bit. And then they release something like this. And there are other places online that are complaining because these are all probably bad films. Well, that's a bad take, period.
It is strange that people would, I think somebody in here was saying that, that it's weird that people think this is beneath Vinegar Syndrome. I'm like,
yeah,
this is literally how they got their start. Like saving films people deemed not worthy. Like they were like, no, they are worthy.
I mean, their first official release, other than some of the Kickstarter titles, was a triple feature of Herschel Gordon Lewis adult films. Like, this lines up exactly with that. I don't know. The big one that a lot of people are excited for is Fatal Games. This has been something that people have asked for years. And one slipcover design that people seem to be head over heels for. This is one that people love.
I gotta admit, other than the font for Fatal Games, the rest of it I really like.
I agree. It doesn't really fit.
But I'd never heard of this film, and so I was reading online trying to figure out what this film was, and so many reviews used the term cheesy fun, which I'm assuming, just based on the plot, that sounds about right. But my favorite reviews said the world's greatest Olympic hopefuls meet serial killer movie ever made. And I was like, yep.
I will enjoy that. Yes. It says, from beginning to end, this trashy gem piles on the sleaze with gratuitous shower scenes, bloody deaths, and an absurd final twist that has gone down in slasher history as amongst the genre's most demented reveals. Just to inject that into my veins right this moment, please.
Well, I see there it says 1984. I don't think a film was made in the United States in 1984 that did not have gratuitous nudity. I was watching something the other day, and there was like no gratuitous nudity until like literally the last scene, and it was so gratuitous. Like it was like they were like, oh, we forgot, and like they put a topless woman and they had the last scene. And I was like, what was that? Like it had nothing to do with the movie.
Not 80s. At all. Let's see. Dude says, I didn't realize until recently that this is the one with the kids that are Olympic hopefuls. Yes, it is. Reggie wants to know, was this made before Tanya Harding? Yes, the whole Nancy Kerrigan thing was 91, 92, something like that. Sibner says, I looked up most of the films in that box set, and most of them have a runtime of about 90 minutes. Wow. Interesting. All right.
I do love that the killer kills everybody with a javelin. I mean,
It's pretty unique.
that's pretty cool.
The Flash pre-order also has the 2 mystery titles. We don't know anything about them yet, but they, of course, wanted to give plenty of guesses for us to speculate over. And they say there's 2 more titles, which we're not going to tell you about. Perhaps the craziest of the bunch, the surprise titles, one of which will mark the UHD debut of a major work by one of genre cinema's greatest auteurs, and the other is a criminally underseen gem of early 80s horror. We can basically guarantee that you're not going to be disappointed. And then the other clue they gave, and most unexpected film is surprises, blah, blah, blah. This upcoming duo will be no different, including the 4K debut of a slimy epic from one of the greatest genre filmmakers to ever live, along with another never-on-disc treasure that will surely satiate those craving squirm-inducing carnage.
I do like the fun of guessing, but am I understanding correctly that people are pre-ordering this sight unseen?
Yes, many people. Many people.
Deaf Crocodile needs a fan base that loyal. We just be like, we're going to release something, please buy it, and everyone's like, okay, that's what I want.
I want that too. Newt Shack says, I really hope it's Brain Dead. I don't think it's going to be a Peter Jackson title, I got to admit. A lot of people are going towards Existence for the 4K of this. They think it's going to be Cronenberg. Some people are saying Mimic, which is another big one. Newt Shack says, I already do that with Deaf Crocodile releases, so you have at least one.
Excellent. Although we do tell you what it is.
That's true. That's true. So we will keep speculating on those, and we won't figure those out until the Black Friday sale. So the night of Thanksgiving is when we will finally know what these 2 titles are. Reminder that just last weekend was the Flash pre-order for Vinegar Syndrome, and this weekend, literally this coming Sunday, they will be announcing, I think, 4 more titles plus a VSA, and then a whole bunch of partner labels up that day as well. So we should find out something. I'm sure Deaf Crocodile has something coming out on Sunday.
We do. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe one of the trailers that we debuted on your show is one of the things that's coming.
Finally, that was a joke, obviously, because it was just shown on here. So many people say finally, unironically, in regards to some of these titles, and it's like, you just found out about this. Why are we saying finally? Yeah, I'm excited because all those trailers look pretty fantastic. We got a compliment here. Says, I watched my copy of The Pied Piper last night. Great film and a great disc.
I don't want to poo-poo on any of our releases, but I think that's my favorite so far.
I think it's the favorite of many
just
people.
The whole package, the film, the bonus materials, the artwork. For me, that's like a perfect release.
It's a good choice. This one, November 14th, we are getting Justified City Primeval. I'm kind of laughing to myself looking at this cover because it's got this big thing at the top that says Season 1. It's never been confirmed that there's going to be more of the show, and it was originally billed as a miniseries. Why labeling it Season 1?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that way, if there is a Season 2, this will make sense.
And then if there's not,
it's cool. If there isn't, it's still Season 1.
To a point, I guess. Did you ever watch Justified, the TV show?
I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but I've never seen it.
So I would assume that you did not watch this miniseries.
No, I did not.
I did. I really enjoyed Justified, actually. I think it's a pretty well-made show, and this was an interesting limited series. It was not justified for me.
Is it a modern day Western, or is it like a cop show with cowboy hats? What I don't really know anything about it.
Cop show with cowboy hats.
Okay.
It is that should be like a whole genre now. It is basically a tough cop from Miami that goes and he's a fish out of water in Kentucky, down in the hollers, and trying to deal with like the inner politics of how the families work together. And he's just an immediate badass, of course.
Of course, he's the star.
What's interesting though is the first, we'll say like 9 or 10 episodes of the first season was your typical like case of the week procedural show,
Mhm.
and it
I like
did
those.
it did pretty poorly. People
Oh, that's
did
too
not
bad.
like that aspect. And so with like 2 or 3 episodes to go in the first season, they changed it and suddenly started this ongoing dramatic story where people, recurring characters, all that stuff. And that's all they did for the rest of the show. And it got better and better as it went on. And they had incredible names. They had Walton Goggins as one of the main antagonists. Margot Martindale was in a full season, and she was incredible. Somebody who was just in that Hulu movie that just premiered over the weekend. No One Will Save You, I think is what it was called. What
Oh,
is
everyone's been raving about that. I talked to Roger, my husband. I was like, we need to watch that, and he's like, all right. So we haven't watched it yet, but a lot of people I trust have said they really like that movie.
it was incredible for 35 minutes.
Oh no.
And then it was pretty good. Caitlin Dever is in No One Will Save You, but she was also main character for about a season and then a little side character after that. Yeah, Justified's pretty decent. Let's see. We had a question for you. The Jash with a Gun says, any interest in The Golden Key by Patushko, Craig?
Anything with Patushko would be yes.
That makes sense. Let's see. Chris says, I wish Vinegar Center would release Combat Academy. All right. Going to the next one. The Crimson Rivers 2 is announced as a Shout Factory site exclusive. And I mean,
I know how much you love those.
so odd. First of all, okay. Obviously, it's weird that it's a site exclusive. It shouldn't be like that. But they've suddenly changed the numbers, and this one is 1,600 copies instead of 1,500 copies, like the last of them.
I mean, it's a genre no film. It's a sequel to a film that I've heard, I've seen, I enjoyed, people liked. It seems odd that they only want to sell 1,600 copies. Like, put this on your site, put this on Amazon, put this everywhere. And sell 5,000 copies. Like,
at least.
I don't understand.
And doing it on their site, they're charging $30 for this plus shipping.
I guess
$30.
I guess 1,600 times 30 they figure is better than 1090, $11.99 times 5,000. I don't have a calculator, but although even if you end up with the same amount of money, people hate you doing it this way.
This one, first off, it would never be $11.99. It would probably sell at like $22.99 instead of $30.
Yeah, the shop stuff is a little pricier, isn't it?
Yeah. But the big thing, there is no new features. There's nothing listed about a new restoration or scan or anything like that. But I didn't even know this was a film. The first one obviously is great. I had no idea.
I didn't realize it existed either. When this popped up on your Instagram, I was like, oh, there was a second one? Because I liked the first one.
Right.
But yeah, I had no idea they made another one.
And then I clicked on it and I went, oh, Jean Reno was in the sequel too. And I didn't know that it existed.
Which sometimes is not great. Like, maybe there's a reason. It's got a big star. It's a sequel to a popular film, and we didn't know it happened.
Yeah. Terry says it's still cheaper than lobby cards, which is true. Jash with the Gun. Site exclusives are very odd. Slips are a good idea, but not on actual releases. Yes. Resident Evil 6 movie collection steelbook set is being released widely. So if you want your steelbook collection to come with as many dents as you have movies in your collection, buy this from Amazon and they will ship it in a really terrible box. That's not even a box. That is probably a little bit of a bag. Resident Evil. Have you seen any of the Resident Evil films?
I have not. And actually, when I was thinking about it, I was like, have I seen those? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't bad. Then I realized, no, that's Underworld.
Underworld is the one I prefer. And
So
I've
no,
seen all the Underworld films.
I've seen several of the Underworld films. I've not seen the Resident Evil films.
I would agree there. Yeah, this one is interesting. The only thing I'll say is if you had the old set that didn't have Dolby Vision, and it looks like this is going to have Dolby Vision, so if you have to have better HDR, you might want to pick this up. But I would wait because the Amazon pre-order price is $230.
Yeah, that's. And the other thing I've noticed about the Amazon like pre-orders, it used to be great because I felt safe pre-ordering on Amazon because they would always lower the price and then charge me the lower price.
Yep.
But now what they seem to always do is they might lower the price a little bit and then it releases and then like a week later it'll go like way lower. So I don't get that price. And I was like, so pre-ordering from Amazon is not safe anymore.
Yeah, not really, sadly. Next up is this one. Daniel Kramer, who we talked about with Imprint quite a bit, has put up a GoFundMe for editing for his current film, Countercurrents. Daniel's had a really rough summer and had some health bouts, and a pet of his died that he was very emotionally attached to. And if you are looking to assist, you can check out the link there. This is the artwork I was talking about earlier. So the standard art on this is so bad, but we are getting a 4K release of The Fugitive. That is the 1993 Harrison Ford film. This is coming on November 21st. You can get a Best Buy 4K Steelbook now, or you can pre-order a standard 4K with the slip and all that. The Steelbook art, it isn't like egregiously terrible, but it's still not great.
It screams a lot more James Bond than it does The Fugitive.
Right?
Is there? And you said there's a different cover.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up. Let me see if I can find it. It's so bad because it will remind you of like 9 other posters that you saw that are not The Fugitive, and it's here it is right here.
Oh, is this the one with the multiple images?
Yeah, it looks like a puzzle. Okay, so let me pull this down, and I will share that one.
So yeah, the slip cover's not. I mean, the steel case is not great. That standard one is hot garbage.
So here is the standard, and I mean, first off, the choices of the images, it's most of the same ones that we've had for The Fugitive for years, but the mugshot should not have been used here. And then beyond that, what is this? You're showing Tommy Lee Jones' jazz hands with a little cutout for his leg, and then the old cover here. This is so bad.
That's really bad. And I have to say, it's just the Warner Brother 100 giant thing at the top of all their releases is really distracting.
It really is.
Do they have a graphic designer that works at any of the studios?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's just weird to me that boutique labels that have no money, no budget, consistently put out beautiful releases, and the studios that have unlimited funds put up that garbage.
Yeah. So I'm interested in getting The Fugitive. We didn't even talk about the film yet. How do you feel about the film?
I loved it when it came out. I think everyone did. My worry is I haven't seen it since the 90s. And I'm like, what if I watch it and I'm like, oh no, it's actually not that good. Because see, right now I could just remember it. Oh, it's fantastic. But if I rewatch it, I could kill that pleasant memory.
I think it still holds up. It's pretty well made.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
see.
I mean, Tommy Lee Jones had been around for a long time, but like this turned him
Yeah.
into a superstar. Um,
Yeah, and then right around that time, he started literally headlining films. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
was the turning point.
yeah, for sure. Which is crazy because he'd been around for, he'd been making films for 20 years at this
Ages.
point
Yeah.
already. Like, um, yeah, I just remember it was a just exciting, well made, well acted, film.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a pretty decent script, and this honestly this holds up as the the era of film that I really started hitting appreciating film. And so watching stuff around this time, I really grew to love like actual set pieces. And when films were made, we're gonna have a scene in Bangladesh. We're fucking flying to Bangladesh and filming a movie. We're
That
not green screening it.
it's I absolutely hate that about modern films now. Like, even if the CGI is done really well, you can still tell they're not there. You know,
Right.
um, yeah, it's just and CGI. I don't know how much they're really saving. Seriously, like, you know, special effects are not cheap.
Based on the unionization of some of the visual artists, it seems like they're saving a lot by not paying them hardly anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's something I've actually been talking about for years. Is how is it there's an industry, the film industry, there's a union for almost every job until you get to post production, and then nothing. You're just expected to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and
At
if you
their
don't like
whim. Yeah.
if you don't like it, we'll get somebody else to do it, and it's in because there's no union, like, so yeah, I'm thrilled to hear like the VFX people are forming a union. Like, all of post production should be treated, with the same kind of respect as the rest of the entire process of making a film. Um, and what ends up happening is because, you know, at the end of the line, there is no union, there is no protections. Everyone's just, well, they'll fix it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Let them handle it. Not my problem. Like,
Sad
yeah,
but true.
yeah, it's. I think if we get some better work environment for post production folks, we'll get better movies.
Yeah, and I was going to mention after this, and I guess I'll bring this down for a moment to talk about it. The writer's strike ended. Officially, it was over, I believe, yesterday at 12:01 a.m. And it's a big deal. Of course, SAG is still on strike, but I believe they have actual conversations planned for the first like Wednesday or Thursday in October. So maybe by next week we could have something on the horizon for that. It's a big deal. There's a lot going on, and just like the last big strike, there's going to be a lag in some titles getting announced. There's going to be a brief period of like that desert of just nothing great coming out, and then Dune will finally get released in February or whatever it was delayed to, and yeah, it is on the right track officially for the writer's strike. So
Yeah, and if anyone couldn't tell, I'm very pro union, um,
same.
and so yeah, I was thrilled to hear it was ended. I was a little worried before I heard, you know, what did they give up, and it sounds like
Yeah.
they almost didn't give up anything, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Their original ask, it would have cost the studios like 450 million, and they did compromise. They didn't lose the big things, but the overall cost of to all the studios for a full year is only going to be like 275 million. That's what all this was for. They've lost way more than that
oh yeah,
due
then,
to the
then,
strike.
then they then they guessed that they lost like 400 or 500 million in 1 month.
Yes,
So I'm like, yeah, it's just ridiculous.
and it
And the
lasted
fact
like
and the
5
fact
months.
that they can lose 400 or 500 million and it doesn't put them out of business. They're like, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, you've got the dough. Like, And and I know it can be difficult when especially when you're talking about Hollywood folks. Like you think of like the big stars, the big actors, and Jim Carrey getting paid $20 million to do a movie. Most of the people that work in the film industry are not the big stars.
Right.
They're not taking down millions of dollars.
Most of the people that work in the industry don't even have health care because they don't work
Yeah.
enough to get it.
Yeah, yeah, that's who was striking.
Exactly. And the fact that this was supported from the top down for the most part for everybody through, like, that's a giant deal. And then you have certain people that were freaking saints, like Drew Carey telling writers that they can go eat at a certain restaurant and he'll cover it forever.
Bob's Big Boy in Burbank. It's right
Yeah.
next to the studio where everyone was picketing. So yeah, he paid for everyone's food, turned the whole thing.
Yeah. It's a big deal. Lots of support that came out from the masses, and that was great to hear.
Yeah, the people negotiating for the studios, they just miscalculated so many times during the whole strike, like thinking they will do this and it'll scare people, or they'll do this and it'll get the public to turn on them, and every time they pulled a trick, everyone just got angrier.
Well, yeah, and they did some of the most obvious things, like letting, I don't remember who the spokesman says, but the one that came out and said, they physically said, we're hoping that we can hold out until the end of the year where people start to lose their houses.
Oh yeah.
How are you going to get people on your side
Yeah,
talking
and
like
then
that?
and then the video, the response from Ron Perlman went viral. Like, I wanted to get T-shirts made that said, there's a lot of ways to lose your home.
I also love the other big one that the studio went and had all the trees trimmed, and then they got in trouble for trimming the trees because they weren't supposed to.
I mean, how petty!
Right.
Like, we want them to get sunburned. Like, just so petty.
I'm not sure if that was Iger that said it. It was somebody. Yeah, Ron Perlman was not messing around at all. He never does.
No, that was a creepy video. I was like, ooh, he's a good actor.
All right, carrying on. This is interesting. Shudder and RLJE announced that Creepshow Season 4 is coming to Blu-ray on December 5th, and none of the episodes have even premiered yet. That doesn't start until October 13th. So that is a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, like, it's a little, I don't know. It feels like the marketing, like, it's just like, this tells me, well, I don't need to subscribe to Shudder. Like,
right.
Like, I'll just wait for the disc.
Well, and I think the next one is even worse for that. Let's go to that one. What Happens Later is a film coming out that was directed by Meg Ryan. This is coming out in theaters on November 3rd, and they've already announced a Blu-ray coming out on December 19th.
Yeah, that's just weird.
Why go to the theater and spend more for you and a date to go to the theater than you will on this Blu-ray?
I don't quite understand the rationale for the studios. They seem to be actively trying to get people to not go to theaters. Which, I mean, we back in the, it was about 20 years ago, the huge transition to digital cinema saved them millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like,
right.
Like, they literally upload a single file to a cloud server that all the theaters can just pull that down and project it.
And that's it.
And they used to ship physical prints to 3,000 theaters.
Yeah.
So it cost them virtually nothing to put these in theaters, and then they take a vast majority of the ticket sales. They take, not the theater. Like, from at one point, I don't know if it's still true, but Disney used to take over 100% of the ticket price. You had to pay Disney to show the movie. The only way you were making money is that you sold out the theater and they bought popcorn, candy, and soda.
Jesus.
So it just, I don't understand. Like, why why did they seem to just be determined to just destroy the theaters?
Yeah, I don't get it. And the hard part is, especially right now, it seems like you should be extending the window from what was minimized during COVID, where the time frame for theatrical to VOD or disc was next to nothing because there was next to no theatrical. But
And
to
I can understand the if you want to tie physical and VOD together, they're released at the same time.
right,
Um, but yeah, they should leave things in theaters a little, a bit longer, and at least don't announce the release before it's even come to theaters.
right,
That's really weird.
yeah, completely agree there. That's a big difference.
Which is funny. My note on that one was a rom-com I've never heard of. I can probably miss this. The reason I've never heard of it is because it hasn't come out yet.
Right, exactly.
I thought it was something that was coming to disc, and I'm like, Meg Ryan, David Duchovny in a rom-com coming to disc. I'm like, was this like straight to? It was so bad it's straight to disc.
Nope, just prescient. Oh man. Carrie Mulligan says Universal seems to have completely forgotten the huge success of Megan because they're kneecapping Five Nights at Freddy's with another same day on Peacock. Really? I did not know that. And that one will be I think that one will be way more popular than what Megan did. Huh. Interesting. Next up is the 2023 film Gran Turismo. We got some details on this. This is coming out on November 7th on standard 4K, a Blu-ray release, and then you can get a Best Buy exclusive 4K Steelbook. This is going to have Dolby Vision, HDR, Dolby Atmos audio, deleted and extended scenes, a bunch of visual featurettes, and looks like a pretty solid release. I've heard surprisingly decent things about this one. I don't think you saw this one, did you?
I didn't see it. I saw the trailer when I did actually go to a theater. I wanted to hate it, but the trailer actually didn't look bad.
Yeah.
And David Harbour's like, how can you not like the guy? Like, he's one of the most likable actors working. Like,
yeah,
you're like, oh, I like that guy. Like, so yeah, I mean, it seems like a story that we've probably seen half a dozen movies, kind of the same. The reluctant coach or whatever. Like, seen it, but it didn't look bad. Looked like they made that story again, fairly well.
I got to ask, what is going on with Orlando Bloom here?
I don't know if how much that's photo manipulation, but I wouldn't have guessed that's him.
No, not at all. I don't want to just highlight somebody's looks necessarily, but I don't know if this is just bad Photoshop. But
and now that you blew that up, there's another one I think coming up. The hair in that photo looks so fake. But yeah, you got another title coming up that's actually one of my notes. I was just like, they could have fixed the really obvious wig, at least for the cover art, but they didn't.
Well, I'm eager to hear what that one is. This one, we got some release details on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. This is coming on November 21st on 4K and Blu-ray, and a wide release 4K Steelbook from Paramount. And this one will have Dolby Atmos audio, and they've got quite a few things on this. They've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles voice actors doing some work on that. They've got some featurettes that they're putting on here, some hand drawing of the animation. I just watched this weekend. Have you seen this one?
I've not. This is the one everyone's been raving about, right?
It's kind of freaking incredible, I got to admit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was just barely too old for the Turtles. The people that created them, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, were locals where I grew up. So there was actually a small little local comic book convention that the comic book premiered at, and I sadly did not go because I probably would have had #1 issue. A few years later, before it became huge with the cartoon, I did get a nice drawing with ironically, he'd been at the convention drawing turtles all day long. I wasn't a fan of the turtles. I just wanted a piece of artwork. So I asked him, I'm like, well, will you draw something else? And he's like, oh, sure. And so Kevin Eastman drew my favorite character, Daredevil, with Wolverine, and was thrilled to do it because he'd been drawing turtles all day.
Right.
And at that point, I didn't even know the connection that the Turtles is basically a spin-off of Daredevil.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. But didn't Michael Bay make a Turtles movie recently?
Yep.
So that's not this one.
No, this is a completely animated film.
Okay, because I heard the Michael Bay one was just creepy. But yeah, the little bit I've seen of this, the animation is gorgeous. It's really cool to see animation that's not so clean and digital looking as kind of got used to. Did you see the Puss in Boots sequel?
No, I bought it for my kid for his birthday last month, and we haven't put it in yet.
You need to. Oh my God, we watched that with some friends. We saw it in the theater. It's funny. The story's fantastic, but all of us, my friends, everybody. When we left the theater, we were just all raving about how gorgeous the artwork was. Like it looks like like painted frames and stuff. It's it's terrific. And then the 2 Spider-Verse films. Like it's great that they're pushing the envelope of digital animation.
Yeah, it impressed the hell out of me. I mean, first off, I didn't love the Turtles growing up, but I really enjoyed them. I've got a picture. I had to have been maybe 3 or 4 years old in some random pizza place with somebody in a Ninja Turtles outfit and me bawling my eyes out because they scared the shit out of me. I'm so glad I still have that picture. But watching this, and thinking back to everything, I think this is by far the best adaptation of anything Turtles related that has come out. And the big thing in this is the voice actors are incredible because they got actual teenagers and to record it instead of doing everything remotely like they do on so many of these animated films nowadays. You don't ever meet your co-stars. You just go read your lines and call it a day. They took these 4 kids and put them in like a restaurant booth and just said, shoot the shit, get to know each other, see what your chemistry does. And they recorded it. And a lot of the stuff was brought in here because it's just them hanging out, and it's so cool. Well done. Yeah.
Is this the one that was Seth Rogen was involved, right? Getting it made.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been doing some very cool stuff behind the scenes. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to see this.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it, and it is streaming on maybe. I don't think it's Peacock. Paramount, I think. Yeah, Paramount Plus.
Oh, really? All right, we got Paramount Plus. I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, just came out on there, and it's a hell of a cast: Jackie Chan, Ice Cube, Seth Rogen, a few others. Let me see if they got them listed here. Oh, just the ones I named, of course. Oh, and John Cena. That was a big one for my kid. Giancarlo Esposito, Maya Rudolph.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, okay. It keeps going and going and going. Which I do love that they get big name stars to do the voices, but at the same time, I've got several friends that are voice actors, and they're just like, come on, like those actors don't need the paycheck.
Well, and then the teenagers, they weren't really known for much of anything else, and they were the best part of the whole thing.
All right, yeah, okay, I need to see this.
Next up, Muzzle. Muzzle starring Aaron Eckhart. First off, that is Aaron Eckhart?
Yeah, I noticed somebody cleverly said that Orlando has lost his bloom.
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart's star has fallen just really, really fall. Wait, what happened? Like he was in top tier movies.
Yeah.
And now he's doing dog movie no one's heard of?
A dog movie called Muzzle.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
The Jash with the gun says, "All right, I got to go, but before I do, Craig, is there any chance of doing the Snow Queen?"
Maybe.
It's a good answer. Maybe. This is coming from RLJE Films on November 14th, and it's probably a movie.
It's definitely a movie.
Well, I don't see a runtime, so it could be a commercial.
It's going to be somebody's favorite.
This one, damn it, you got me. This one I want to see. The Retirement Plan is coming on December 19th from Vertical Entertainment. That is a 2023 film starring Nicolas Cage, Ron Perlman, Ashley Greene, Joel David Moore, Ernie Hudson, Jackie Earl Haley, and Rick Fox.
Not Rick Fox, the basketball player.
Rick Fox, the basketball player.
Okay.
That is him right there in the tie. That is blurry. He's done a handful of movies.
Well, this is, if you zoom in on Nick, you'll notice the just really bad rug there. I was just like, really? Like, I mean, come on, be nicer to Nick than that. Like, you could clean that up. Yeah, so yeah, seeing the bad rug and the artwork and the stellar cast and the again, never heard of it, made me, I'm like, this might be another one of those. Nick Cage puts out a lot of movies. He definitely goes with the shotgun method, you know, and there's always a few gems in there.
Yep.
I'm afraid this might not be one of them.
Moving right along, Violent Night with David Harbour that we just talked about is getting a release on 4K in the UK on November 6th. It is going to have a standard release over there as well, but the big one is this is getting this special edition 4K Blu-ray steelbook with an embossed finish, a slipcase to hold it, soft touch, and spot gloss finish, 40-page production notes booklet, 4 art cards, and a double-sided poster. You can order this from Zavvi now, or you can buy the standard from Amazon.
Have you seen this?
I have not. I don't know. Something about it seems off-putting to me. A couple people I know liked it, but what about you?
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard people say they liked it. And again, I really like David Harbour. When I see films like this, though, is this a Halloween watch or is this a Christmas watch?
It seems to be a Christmas watch.
Okay.
And there are an ever-growing number of Christmas horror movies that are coming out like every single year.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they make money, they're going to make more.
Well, and the big thing, this is just like the Mariah Carey method, is every single year, if you make a haunted, Christmas horror movie, it will get more and more play every December. It's something that will always be in the zeitgeist because everybody goes, oh, it's Christmas. I love horror movies. Let's watch Christmas horror movies. And from what I hear, this one's pretty light on horror. It's more like action.
Well, I was reading the description, and it sounds more like an action movie than it's horror.
Here we go. Sivner says it's Die Hard with Santa.
Okay. So it's
that
not, because I remember back in the day going to the video store, and I never watched it, but I was always fascinated with the cover for, is it Silent Night, Deadly Night, with Santa going down the chimney and you just see the axe?
Yep.
Great cover art. Never saw it. But this artwork and stuff reminded me of that film, but yeah, reading the description, it definitely sounds more like an action film where Santa just kicks a bunch of butt.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good Christmas horror movies, though. Next up, King and Country from 1964 is coming on Blu-ray from Studio Canal in the UK as part of their Vintage Classics line. This is a Joseph Losey film. And this is going to have a new 4K restoration from the OCN that was held at the BFI. There is a new featurette, Tom Courtney on King and Country, some archival interviews, behind the scenes, stills gallery. I've never seen King and Country. Is this one that you've seen?
I'm not familiar with it, but 4K restoration from the original camera negative, and the negative was held at BFI, means it's going to be gorgeous.
Yep.
That means that negative from 1960, what'd you say, 5, will be in better shape than the one from 1994 that we're working with.
True. Yeah, that one, I still have nightmares over that picture. Man, me posting this pissed some people off, I guess. You can order.
Why would that? You're going to have to explain.
I will. You can order from a website called Mercantile Instinct a Blu-ray called Clerk. This is a documentary from 2021, and it's got a new commentary with Kevin Smith, of course, doing a commentary for a documentary about him, and some new interviews with people like Ralph Garman and Joe Manganiello, and then some other special features. It looks like a decent release. I like Kevin Smith myself, but
okay, that artwork is good. That other one, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So why were people upset?
Because people saw this and went, "Why isn't it a 4K?" And I went, "Did you read the image to understand this is not Clerks? First of all,
yeah. There's an S missing."
And well, look at the cover. It literally says a documentary about Kevin Smith.
Okay, so the people that were upset just didn't or can't read.
That, and Kevin Smith has a lot of people that hate him.
Did they hate him or do they hate his movies?
I'd say it's actually probably pretty evenly split. A lot of people don't like his his stereotype of I always talk about being fat or smoking pot for the last 15 years, and then once he had a heart attack, everything was about that. I don't know.
I mean,
people suck.
You watch any comedian,
Yeah,
they have the things they talk about.
Jim Gaffigan's been saying the words "hot pockets" for the last 23 years.
And any comedian that has a child, the next 3 specials, that's all they talk about. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, why would you hold Kevin Smith, who's not even a stand-up comedian, to a higher standard?
Right.
Personally, he's got a few films I've liked, but I've found him far more entertaining than his movies usually. The Evening with Kevin Smith specials are terrific, very entertaining. I was lucky enough to see him at UCLA speaking with Stan Lee, and that was fantastic. It was great. Stan was still pretty old at that point, but they had this couch out there for him, and the way they were kind of set up for a camera to shoot it, but after a few minutes, Stan was like, to talk to you, I keep having to turn. He's like. So he just stands up, and then just starts moving the couch himself. And Kevin Smith's like, whoa, like, we'll get someone to do that for you. It was a fun night. And I've always been a fan of Kevin Smith, not necessarily his movies. I think Clerks came out when I was going to film school, so it was the talk of everyone.
Of course.
And it was enjoyable.
Well, I was going to ask, what you said you liked some of them. What are the ones from him that you've enjoyed the most?
Clerks was okay. God, what was the kind of sort of horror movie he did? That Red State.
There's Red State. There's Tusk.
I didn't see Tusk. Red State. I kind of enjoyed. I saw one of the. What was it? The third Jay and Silent Bob film, like Strike Back or something. Awful movie. I mean, just not a good movie. But just watching it, and then at the end, for no reason other than clearly Kevin Smith wanted to see The Time perform live. It's Morris Day and The Time at the end performing.
Yep.
And at the end, I was just like, he's just having the
The time of
most
his life.
fun he can
Yeah.
possibly have, and they're allowing him to like make a movie of it. Like I kind of appreciated that. I'm like, he's just having fun. Like it's just silly fun. That's all. Um, so yeah, I kind of appreciate someone that's just not too serious, just having a good time. Like
And
um,
that's mostly what he's done
yeah.
since like Chasing Amy, other than, like Clerks, not Clerks. I meant to say Cop Out, and then uh, there's one or two that he's really done for the studio, but
Oh, I
everything is
mean,
just him
in
hanging
one
out
of
with his
one of
friends.
his specials, yeah, one of his specials, he talks about how awful making Cop Out was. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, because he wasn't doing it for himself and he wasn't having fun, So it's like I think after that he's like, all right, I'm done with that. I'm just gonna have fun.
Yeah, you mentioned Red State. Most people have not seen Red State, and Red State is by far my favorite Kevin Smith movie. I think
I
that,
think if you put anyone in front of a TV and you started the film after the directed by credits, so they didn't know who made it, you could give them 100 guesses and they would never say Kevin Smith.
yeah, it is a very harrowing movie. It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, he's talented, but I think he's more interested in just having fun, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and then of course, living here, I think I'm 75 miles from the headquarters of the Westboro Baptist Church that the movie
Oh,
is basically about. They're here often. They're around us. They picket cops' funerals around here. They picket big musicians that come and play in downtown Kansas City. It happens at least once a month.
it is. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. Like it's just random. They're like, "What are we
Yeah,
doing Friday night?" Like nothing. All right, let's go
it's all
picket
for
this.
attention. Yeah, just attention.
Uh, but yeah, I'm interested in seeing this.
Next one, Umbrella announced some titles just last night. First one is Monkey Shines from 1988. They're going to have their big Umbrella Store exclusive edition. That one's going to have a 48-page book with new writing by Lee Gambin and Jarrett Gahan, plus an interview with Joyce Van Patten. They've got a rigid outer slipcase, classic poster design, 8 replica lobby cards, a reversible poster, and it'll be numbered. And then their standard release will have the audio commentary with George A. Romero that was on the previous release. Obviously, he can't do a new one. Making of, alternate ending, deleted scenes, all that fun stuff. But Umbrella kind of really stepping up their game over the last year or so with these releases. This will probably get a lot of people.
I'm interested. I don't. I feel like I probably saw it when it came out, but I don't remember it. And I think I'd asked you before we started. This was a Stephen King short story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm interested.
Love this comment. If anyone can come back from the dead to do an audio commentary, it would be Romero. That's funny. Next one they announced is Stigmata. This is from 1999. This stars, of course, Patricia Arquette, Gabriel Byrne, directed by Rupert Wainwright. Also has Portia de Rossi in it. This one will have the big Umbrella Store exclusive with a 48-page book with an essay by Travis Johnson and more, a classic poster slipcase with 8 lobby cards, a reversible poster, and then a new commentary that's exclusive to this release with Tristan Fiddler and Simon Murado. They are from the Movie Squad. You got the audio commentary with Rupert Wainwright and the alternate ending on here as well. You were saying before you remember this not being very good.
I saw it at the theater, but I'm not a huge horror fan, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. I like Patricia Arquette. I like Gabriel Byrne. I like all the people in it, but
Yeah.
Uh, but again, horror is not my go-to genre. There's only like one or two a year that I'm like, oh, that looks good. I want to see that.
Yeah, I remember liking this, but thinking it was super cheesy. I've not watched this in a long time, but it was 1999, and I mean, it also played up against some of the best films in history that came out that year. So it's tough. Then they also announced Rib Spreader from 2022. This is a part of their little partner label, Monster Pictures, and this is directed by Dick Dale. And the collector's edition will have an O-ring and poster only available from the Umbrella web store. There's a feature-length audio commentary with Dick Dale, cinematographer Hugh Freitag, and star Tommy Darwin, a making of, some random visual effects featurettes, a Kickstarter video, some short films from Dick Dale, and all that other stuff. I don't think you had anything on the spreadsheet for this one, did you?
No, and it's funny looking at the artwork. I thought this was something probably from like the 60s or 70s, and then I see, oh, it's new. It's brand new.
Brand new, yeah.
Like I said, not a huge horror fan, so not probably gonna pick this one up.
That makes perfect sense. But this one, they semi-announced. It looks like we have a release date that Titanic is coming on 4K on December 5th. I love all the comments about, like this top comment here. Good Lord, the DNR in that image alone.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, back when that came out, Leonardo DiCaprio probably had already, in reality, porcelain-like skin, and that's even gone further.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that's not representative of what the film looks like. I doubt it. It's probably going to look great because I can't imagine James Cameron's going to let something go. Oh, yeah, T2 was pretty.
Gave us T2, yeah.
Yeah, he reminded, T2. So yeah, who knows?
And even the Avatar 4Ks don't look as stunning as you'd expect them to.
Mm.
And then literally last night at Beyond Fest, they showed
that's right down the street from me.
Nice. They showed The Abyss, the 4K restoration, and he did a Q&A. And somebody, of course, asked, are they coming out physically? And he said, The Abyss on 4K should be out within a couple months. I'm done with everything. The studio's doing their stuff, and it should be out very soon. I mean, please give it to us. But also,
he's done. The disc could be done. That doesn't mean that the marketing department has decided it's coming out in a couple months.
Right.
It could come out in a couple months, but who knows when they'll actually release it? Because After Hours, I believe, was restored years ago.
At least 2 years ago, it made a couple presentations on that one. This. I know that we have different feelings. Craig, tell me, how do you feel about Titanic, Craig?
The first time I saw it or the second time I saw it?
Let's share both with the crowd. First of all, it's the first time you're sitting in a movie theater and Titanic just played. How do you feel about it?
I saw it in the theater. My head popped off. Like I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. I'd never seen visual effects that incredible. Obviously most everyone has seen the film. The whole sinking of the ship was just absolutely incredible. At that time, I know Leo was not hard on the eyes either at that time. So yeah, I was just like, this is a absolutely phenomenal movie. And then a few days later, maybe a week later, I went to see it again with some friends, telling them like, oh my God, it's incredible, got to see it. And I was sitting in the theater and I was like, is this the same movie I just watched last week? Like, because once the spectacle was, I'd seen that. So now I was watching the movie. James Cameron can't write dialogue to save his life. And I just don't know if he's just got too big an ego to let someone else write his stuff, but he should stick to directing and supervising visual effects and let someone else write it.
See, and I just don't agree. I love this movie so much. This movie is a masterpiece. the hard part, I don't know if I'm wrong or just love this for whatever reason, because some of his other movies, I'm the exact same way. I'm like, your script is so bad that it doesn't work. But I watched this, I'm like, God, this is just almost a perfect movie. I don't know.
Have you counted how many times he says Rose?
No, but I bet that's pretty bad.
It's just, I don't know. It's yeah. I I said something to the effect of, on Twitter about James Cameron should let other people write. That didn't go over well. Um, and then they come back with the argument of how many other directors have had films that grossed $1 billion, and I'm like, I didn't say you can't put butts in the seat. He can do that better than anybody. He just can't write.
Well, and even the whole $1 billion argument, I don't think people understand that weren't around to see how big Titanic was. This was like Casablanca big. Like the number of re-releases this film has had.
Well, plus, like when that came out, even its first run, I saw it twice.
Right.
I mean, people were seeing this in the theater 10 times. Like, it was huge.
And then going back in 2017 for the 20-year anniversary, going back in 2023 to see the restoration.
Yeah. It's incredible how beloved this film is.
Yeah, and to me, the way I always looked at the dialogue, I don't know, just more of like almost like a stage play, written to be in a way that was dramatic on purpose to serve the greater overall story and to give it weight.
You know what? I will try watch the next time I watch it. I'll try watching it with that in mind. The problem with that theory is, how does that explain the god awful dialogue in all his other films? Like, it carries over. Like, the bad dialogue carries over across films. I think I've mentioned to you before, like T2. It's one of the best action movies ever made. At this point, if you can, just unplug your center channel so you don't get the dialogue, it's always so cliche and dripping with testosterone, even if it's women speaking. Like, it just feels like all his stuff was written by a 17-year-old bro.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just too much. And then Avatar, I worked on that one at IMAX because we did it was a huge IMAX release. And watched the movie, and I was just like, I've seen this before. It was set on the plains, and it had Kevin Costner, and it's the same movie. And so I was like, that's such a blatant ripoff. And then they did the re-release where they added additional footage, and the big scene from Dances with Wolves that was missing in the original release, they put in the re-release with the big buffalo hunt. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's just shameful. Like, you have no shame.
we have like 4 or 5 people in the comments that have never seen Titanic. That seems wild.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I guess it's been a while. We've probably got some youngsters in there.
Well, some of these that are speaking up are even a couple years older than me. Interesting. Let's see. Somebody's pointing out, Carey Mulligan said Titanic's original theatrical release window lasted over a year. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about.
I am seeing a note there about the dialogue in the original Terminator. I think that's the last film James Cameron made that doesn't have ridiculous dialogue.
Yeah. John, you're almost that old. It's okay. Next up, Eureka had some announcements today. The first, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'm going to say The Fall of Akko Castle, maybe Akko Castle. This Akko, I assume, probably 1978. This is coming from the Masters of Cinema line. directed by Kinji Fukasaku, which is really cool. We got a slipcase on this, limited to 2,000 copies. We got a new audio commentary by Tom Mess, which is going to be great, I'm sure. New interview with Tony Raines, new video essay by Jasper Sharp, and a collector's booklet with new writing on the film by Jonathan Clements. And this one is a big deal. It's got Sonny Chiba. So I don't even know if I said that right. Sonny Chiba and Toshiro Mifune in the same movie, and I need to see this.
Yeah, I'm looking on IMDb right now because I hadn't heard of it. It sounds spectacular.
Yeah. It says, when an injustice cost his master his life and estate, loyal retainer vows revenge. Because the target of his vengeance is protected by the ruling shogunate, any retaliation would be seen as an act of treason. Oishi assembles the remaining ranks of the now masterless samurai, and the 47 of them pledge a blood oath to avenge their slain lord. Tensions rise among the ranks of the Ronin, eager to launch the mission. As Oishi bides his time, awaiting the right time to strike, enemy spies and assassins track Oishi, who has seemingly fallen into vice. Has he lost his sense of honor, or is it just a part of his plan?
Yeah, IMDb is saying it's the story of the 47 Ronin, based on historical events. It sounds incredible. The cast is incredible. That artwork is incredible.
The director's incredible. Yeah.
My wallet is saying no, but my heart is saying yes.
Well, if that's not enough, they also are putting out Casino Raiders, which is from 1989, an early entry into the Hong Kong gambling film cycle of the 80s and 90s. And this is Bloody Mayhem, courtesy of directors Jimmy Hung and Wong Jing. This is coming on December 4th from Eureka, just like that other title, The Fall of Akko Castle, both December 4th. This one is going to have a new feature-length audio commentary by Frank Jang, and then another new commentary by Mike Leader and Arna Venema. New documentary looking at gambling culture in Hong Kong and the popularity of the film genre that Casino Raiders helped to popularize. That's pretty damn cool.
And again, great artwork. I like that cover as well.
Yeah. Very strong. Paul says The Fall of Akko Castle is on Tubi. So your wallet can rest a little bit if you just want to watch it.
I should also mention a bunch of our films are on Tubi now.
That's right. Very nice. Next up, let's talk about this for a moment. I am doing Horror Gives Back this year. I've tried to do it previously, but never really advertised it for the channel. Unsung Horrors, who Erica Schultz has been on the channel a few times. I'm working with her on Someone's Favorite Productions on a release right now, actually. And we are taking part in their monthly charity for the Best Friend Animal Society. And what they do is they give us themed days for the entire month of October. You can stick to the theme or not, it doesn't matter. But you donate at least $1 for every horror movie that you watch in October, and it goes to benefit this charity. And if you donate through their link, it is the entire community coming together to make this big shared contribution. If you're interested in checking this out, I actually just put out a channel update and my list of what I'm going to be watching this month based on all of these themes. And I'm very, very interested to see some of these. I'm choosing some for the first time that I've been wanting to watch for a long time, like Targets that just came out from Criterion. I've still never seen it, and I finally get to watch it in October.
Yeah, this is hopefully a good excuse to get through some of that watch pile.
Yeah. Highly recommend people donate.
Yeah, absolutely. We just went to a cat cafe the other week, and
nice.
just because they charge you to get in, so it's because it's part of a cat rescue. And oh my god, it's fantastic being surrounded by like 40 cats that are all up for adoption, and it was terrific. So yeah, I appreciate giving to the animals.
Always. And we're ending with a bang tonight. That Warner Brothers 100 logo that Craig loves so much, coming on November
Oh,
14th.
you know what? That's really nice artwork if you just cut that top off.
Right. It's not terrible. But of course, they have to give this shout out to the Conjuring universe at the top as well. The greatest evil in the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, no.
Uh, we are getting on November 14th The Nun 2 in 4K and Blu-ray. This is going to have Dolby Atmos audio, Demons in Paradise featurettes, Handcrafter Nightmares featurettes, and that is it. I know Craig doesn't love horror, so I will say I kind of hated this movie. I watched the first one, and it was somehow worse than this one. This one is much better than the first Nun movie, and this was still very, very bad. Very bad.
Sounds like a nice, easy, hard pass.
Yeah, it should be. This was not good. Have you seen any of the Conjuring films, Craig?
I have not.
Nothing about that surprises me. Let's go to our reminder for what is coming out next week. And we get Prey 4K. That's a big deal. You got the Steelbook option for that, or a standard 4K. Nice. Where'd you go for the pre-order?
Diabolic, I think.
Smart. Then The Mist 4K comes out next week. Scream 3 4K comes out next week. Heads up to everybody that was keen to get the Steelbook version of Scream 3. That seems to be like one of the hottest Steelbooks of the fall. A lot of people were upset that it's red and does not look like the first two that they put out, and it will stick out. Yet you can't find it anywhere in stock to be able to pre-order. It seems to be gone. So if you see it available somewhere, you may want to grab it if that's what you're into. The Scream Factory releases The Night of the Demons and Night of the Demons 2 and 3 are all coming out next week. The first one of those in 4K, the sequels on Blu-ray. Don't Look Now 4K from Criterion. It Came from Outer Space 4K coming from Universal. The Black Phone 4K. Talk to Me 4K. The single releases of the Universal Monster 4K titles. And then this odd Abomination book that they're doing of the Universal Monsters.
You know what? I remember when that was first announced on the show, and you guys spent a good amount of time hating on that artwork. It doesn't fit what they're selling, but just on its own, it's not horrible.
And that's the difference. I think if it was a poster, it might be better, but the fact that it's going for all of the Universal Monsters, I don't know.
No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, just alone that it's so bright and colorful for black and white horror films. Like it doesn't work for what it's selling, but on its own, I don't hate it.
I will say it is much better than the Lion King 4K Steelbook right below it.
Oh yeah, I guess when somebody is like, oh, it's a steelbook, so it should just be all metal.
They are trying to recreate the treasure box tins that Disney did like 14, 15 years ago for the old DVD treasure set. They
look like picture frames.
Yeah, and not well done either.
Again, like, a company that literally has more money than they could ever know what to do with, and that's what they do with it.
Yep. And here's many examples.
Talk to me.
I have. Have you?
I have not. It's one that I've heard a lot of people talking about, but
I would say if you are interested in a unique take on an addiction storyline, it's worth it. If you are very anti-horror, it's still probably worth it. And I also will say it probably has the best sound design that I've heard in a film in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. Like up there with the Batman level for me from last year.
It is surprising to me that they keep coming out with, Dolby Atmos, and then the home theaters, they keep adding more and more speakers, and 95% of films use the right, left, and center, and that's it.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I mean, there were some things that could have been better. It's not perfect or anything, but the sound design alone was enough to make me really appreciate seeing it in theaters.
Hmm.
We got Ip Man coming out in a Blu-ray steelbook, even though it's available on 4K. That's an odd choice. If you are looking to get the Back to the Future trilogy on Blu-ray, even though it's out on 4K, you can get that next week. And then maybe the most important film, The Mean One, the horror film based on The Grinch, is coming out on a burned Blu-ray disc next Tuesday.
The Grinch is in public domain.
Yes.
Didn't know that.
Me
That makes it
neither until
obvious.
this got announced. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we got next week. And some decent announcements this week. Next week is sort of light, but I appreciate that because October, November, December are about to be really heavy for physical media.
Oh yeah, it's October, November, December is when I go to Blu-ray.com and I click on that deals button. I sort by lowest price, and then boxes just start showing up at the house. And
Oops.
I mean, you get Blu-rays for $5. It's like you pay that much to rent them. I'm like,
Yeah. Ash is asking, will the hand from Talk to Me come through A24 with the signatures and writing on it? Yes. I think it's still available. You could buy it. It was like $110 for a full, I think it weighs like 3 pounds, full-sized hand from Talk to Me. They're selling through A24. And on top of that, it's a freaking bong. And it looks great.
I noticed that, yeah.
Tony has to bow out. Have a good night or good day, Tony. Tony's in Australia. Stan, I think you'd enjoy Talk to Me. It's pretty decent. All right, Robert De Niro. It's time for some Bob, Craig. So we talked a little bit in the beginning about why Robert De Niro, and I totally appreciate that he was formative for you. Let's talk about the Scorsese ones first, since we're not going to be talking about those tonight. What do you think is his best Scorsese performance?
Raging Bull. It's just
has to be
that. Yeah, it's just legendary performance, and it covers the gambit. From quiet, just looking in his eyes, knowing what he's feeling, to bursts of anger, to cover everything. It just feels very real.
I feel that about the number one that I picked for tonight. I appreciate that. I'm very curious to see your list because I'm betting your list is going to be very different from mine. We talked about this. I don't have a whole lot of his films that I've seen that aren't Scorsese.
I looked on IMDb and I saw that he had like 136 entries for actor. And I was going through them and I've seen most of them. There's some of the newer ones I haven't seen, but I at one point or another I've seen most of them. So looking through those, trying to come up with 5, it was next to impossible. My first list going through, I came up with like 17, and then took out the Scorseses. That got me down to like 11. And even then, trying to put those into an order, I was like, I think I might have mentioned to you an email. I'm like, it's supposed to be top 5. There's going to be a lot of honorable mentions.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one I struggled a little bit with the order, but again, I don't know that I've seen many of his non-Scorsese films.
You're missing out. There's some good stuff.
I will rely on you. I got to ask up front, just not to spoil anything. How do you feel about his comedy?
Hit and miss. I think some of them are brilliant. Spoiler alert: there's at least one in my top 5. um, I don't think any of them are horrible. The ones I've seen, I just think sometimes it's just he's got a little extra De Niro on him.
Right.
Some of them. I mean, I feel like sometimes he's done a few films where it might be, it was a paycheck.
Especially lately.
But yeah, like an honorable mentions, not in my top 5. Small little supporting role in Silver Linings Playbook. But he was so like I remember seeing the film, and the few little scenes he was in, I was like, oh my god, like he's back. Like that's like really good De Niro.
Right.
So yeah, it's the comedies. Yeah, I enjoy them. I think he can be funny. I think he's generally better being the straight man than trying to be the funny one. Even though the straight man is funny, it's what makes the comedy work.
Right. Friend of the channel Brian says, I worked with him on that one. He was very quiet, did his lines, then went and sat on his chair and played solitaire on his flip phone.
Which film was that?
I think he was talking about Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, okay.
Brian does sound. He does sound primarily out of New York.
I'm looking through some of the notes here.
I am curious. What do you think makes him so perfect for crime films? Because obviously that's his bread and butter.
I think it's again, and this is why the stuff I really like about him is it's the quiet moments. He can be just sitting there thinking about killing you, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to say a word, and that character wants to kill me. I think that's why he's so good at crime films, is that there's a almost an unconscious danger. Like he doesn't have to emote it. He's I think he's the best actor I know that can portray thoughts on screen.
Interesting. Very interesting. I guess before we really dive into it, we should go and spend probably a good 2 or 3 minutes. How much are you anticipating Killers of the Flower Moon?
Well, it was supposed to come out like in a week or so, and they pushed it. So that bummed me out because I planned on spending most of October in a theater. Yeah, I'm. There's no level I can explain how much I'm anticipating that movie.
For those that have not read the zine yet, I think it was the second edition of the zine. Craig wrote a piece about the top 5 Scorsese films from 2000 onward. How, just based on the preview, how do you think this is going to stack up to some of that? Because obviously it's not your standard recent Scorsese film.
I've only seen 2 trailers because I've been trying desperately to avoid them. I watched the first one because I kind of had to, and then I've avoided all the other ones. It's surprising how many they've released.
Yeah.
And the second one I saw because I went to a movie and it was a trailer they played at the theater.
Yeah.
The trailers are fantastic. I don't trust trailers though. Yeah. A really good editor can make the worst movie seem great in a trailer. So I don't want to put anything on. I just want to go in and watch it for what it is and not what I anticipate. So yeah, that's why I want to see it multiple times, because you can't help but have some sort of expectations. And I'm big on accepting things for what they are instead of what you want them to be.
Right.
Um, it honestly, I don't want to sound like the wise old man, but the secret to happiness in life is, and this is going to sound like a joke, but it's lowered expectations.
100%.
I mean, if you just accept things as they are and you don't get upset,
Yep.
like, it's obviously it's you can't be like that 100% of the time, but if that's your goal, you'll be much happier.
I see. I would have preferred if it was only 110 minutes long, but instead
Oh
we got
no, I heard that, was it 3 hours 20, and I'm like, oh, that's
yeah.
it. Like that the GQ interview that just came out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I felt very vindicated in my love of The Irishman and how I interpreted it and what I felt he was saying. Then reading that interview, I was like, yeah, he's looking at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great interview, but it was also just kind of sad that he realizes he's 81, and
Yeah.
he's hoping maybe he can do one or two more movies before he's gone, and like just knowing that there's the finish
That's
line
it.
is not far down the road. Like,
Yeah.
um, I just hope he can make whatever he can make, and I love that he's in a place where he's like he's the old guy. He's like, he don't give a shit. Like, like, uh, he wants whatever he makes is what he's going to make. Like, he's talking about, like, does a film need to have a beginning, middle, and end? No. Like, um, he's done trying to please others,
Right.
which is great. I'm looking forward to seeing what he makes from that.
Yeah, I'm eager to see what. Hopefully, something can quickly come after this one, and then maybe he could have a good 3 in the pocket
Yeah, I
before
mean,
he's
yeah,
done.
I mean, and Clint Eastwood's in his
That's
90s. He's
true.
still making films, so I hope Marty doesn't have some health issue that we don't know about, because hopefully, yeah, he can go for another 10, 15 years. Who knows? Um, but
Yeah.
and it seems like he wants to. From that interview, it doesn't sound like he wants to retire. He's like, he'll keep making films until he can't do it anymore. So selfishly, I hope that goes on for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's get into our list, and then we can dive into some more of the actual conversation around this. I will happily go first because I kind of already shared my number 5, as I was discussing earlier. My number 5 is Analyze This. I think he's actually really great in this movie. This is my favorite of his comedies that he's done, that I've seen at least. I've not seen all of them. This way better than Meet the Parents type of humor that he's grabbed onto a few times, in my opinion, at least. Really liked how it blended a couple of the genres that he's hit pretty hard in his career. Love this movie as a whole. I think it's fairly underrated, especially nowadays. I think not enough people have seen this movie.
Oh,
Um,
I like it a lot.
yeah, this is one of my favorites because it was one of the earlier ones I've seen. I think.
And Billy Crystal was on a pretty good run of comedies during that period. This
Yep.
this was another one that was great. Um, no, I agree. Good movie.
Good.
It's not one I'd be like, oh really? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's fun.
All right, number 5 for Craig.
Number 5 for me is a smaller role. It's a supporting actor, if even that, like, smaller role. But
Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yeah.
but it's one of the, without him in the film would suffer. And that's The Untouchables, Al Capone. Brian De Palma, 1987, Ennio Morricone score. Like, it's such a good movie.
There's a lot of things that hit right in that movie.
Yeah, it's so good. And his Al Capone is, I mean, up until what was that show that Scorsese produced with Joe Pesci and Boardwalk Empire.
Oh yeah.
The actor that played Al Capone in that, I think that's the first time someone's done it that could take the mantle and be like, all right, Al Capone is yours now.
Interesting.
But yeah, The Untouchables is fantastic. He's amazing. I'm assuming you have seen it.
Yeah. This is well, I'm also a big Kevin Costner fan, and this is one.
I do like Kevin Connery. I mean, Sean Connery, won an Academy Award. He's so good in it.
Yeah.
It's just a great film. I just recently was rewatching Once Upon a Time in America, and I did feel a little. I was like, Ennio, you're cheating, dude. Like, if you watch that and then you watch The Untouchables, like there are at least two major themes that he just lifted from the soundtrack. It was like, I'm just going to use that again. That was good.
I'll take this as an opportunity. If anybody's listening, why do we not have another release of Once Upon a Time in America? Like, that has been out of print for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Sergio Leone is a genius.
Yeah.
I was surprised how violent it was. Like, the violence in that is in your face. Like, I was like, oh wow. Like, I hadn't seen it in a while. I'd forgotten. But yeah, like he's so well known for his westerns, and you've got these big wide open spaces that he was able to use, and he managed to create these same like epic vistas in New York, in New York City, with just like an entire screen of a brick building, like just incredible. Like and then obviously the shot in the film is what they used for the poster art, with the kids running by with the bridge in the back. It's just a great movie. Like, Sergio Leone is one of my absolute favorites.
There are a couple of my lists that, well, most of the list now is kind of cheating because you could argue that they're similar performances to what he does in the Scorsese flicks. I got to go number 4. I got Ronin. I think he carries this movie, and without him, it would be much, much worse. I think that Ronin is, sorry to everybody in the chat, slightly overrated, but I think he's pretty incredible in it. Slightly.
I don't know how people generally feel about it. So to say it's overrated, I don't know, because I don't know how it's rated. But it's always been a favorite of mine. I do remember when it came out, one of the reviews was talking about. I think John Frankenheimer directed it, and he was quite old when he directed it. And they're like, the best action movie of the year is directed by an old man. Like, it's, you don't need. You just need to know how to make a good film, and he knows how to make a good film. Again, Jean Reno, it's just a great movie. Yeah, De Niro's fantastic in it.
Yeah, he definitely carries this one for me. There's another one on here that I think I'm going to make some people pissed off that I don't love the movie, but there's a couple of the movies, and this is one of them that he makes the movie for you. And Ronin, without him, I don't think anybody else could have pulled the movie off the way that he did.
Can't disagree.
That's why I got it. What's your number 4 then?
This is great because we're actually top 5, but it's really 10 because we're not matching any of them. So.
I bet there will be at least one.
Probably one. Yeah, at least one. So my 4.
Yeah.
It's another supporting role, and again, because it's a small role that, if you think of this film, you think of him and his character, and in particular one scene, because it's so damn good.
Yeah.
Angel Heart. Same year he did The Untouchables. He did 2 like astounding tiny little roles.
Guess what my number 3 is?
Angel Heart?
I adore Angel Heart. I think that this movie needs to be seen by so many more people. He is so interesting in this movie. It's such an odd, just weird blip in his career. I love him in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was saying, like, you were asking why is he great in crime films? because he has the ability to just exude danger
Yeah.
without doing any. He's peeling a hard-boiled egg. Did you know this dude is evil?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, this is one. There was a 4K steelbook that came out, I think, last year, and I immediately told people they needed to check that out. This and I think the Limey was the other one that came out on 4K steelbook last year that people just never talked about. And oh man, Angel Heart, just people discovering it again since its release. It's a really great time to watch it.
And
It's a
I love that 4Ks. Most 4Ks are region free because I believe the 4K first came out in Germany, so I immediately bought that.
nice.
Um,
Just because I can answer this quickly, Crownless King says, Craig, do the Deaf Crocodile Blues on Amazon have slips? No, they do not. None of them do. Those are all just the retail releases. Well, I hate that my number 3 matched your number 4 because I don't have a long diatribe to go on, but now we get another Craig pick for your number 3.
my number 3, The Godfather Part 2. Those were some serious shoes. Like that had to. I mean, he was pretty young, like early in his career, and they're like, "We want you to play the young Vito Corleone that Marlon Brando just knocked out of the park 2 years ago," and he pulled it off. Like unquestionably, he's phenomenal in it.
Yeah. This is my number 2. I love this movie, obviously, and I think that it's not unheard of to say that people enjoy this one more than the first one. I'm in that camp, but his performance is what makes it so interesting that the two films are so different from each other, yet so related, so ingrained in each other, and he is the second movie. He's incredible.
The back in it must have been in the 80s at some point. They came out with this super duper deluxe VHS release of The Godfather 1 and 2 in chronological order. And there were a few added scenes that bridged them together that had been cut out. I think it was like $125 to get this thing. So I was in high school, went to my local video store, like pre-ordered it. I'm like, I need this.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy nonlinear storytelling, that works really well watching it in chronological order. It works really, really well.
Interesting.
So I don't know if there's a way to watch it that way anymore, but
I'm guaranteeing you there's some on the bootleg market.
yeah, it's a good way to watch it.
Yeah, very interesting. I've not seen the chronological version, but man, now just super interesting.
Yeah, it's only about 6 hours, 6+ hours.
6 hours. Yeah, that's Coppola for you though, and Scorsese obviously. There's just a lot of long movies in his career.
That's shorter than Satan Tango, and that's one movie.
That's a good point. Well, we did it again, and I fear that we're going to do it with my number 1. What's your number 2?
My number 2.
Yeah.
It's probably your number 1.
Let's see, because we're probably going to have very different opinions. Go ahead.
The Deer Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah. So our lists were just shifted by one.
Okay, so I don't love The Deer Hunter as a movie. I honestly, I'm actually turned off by it quite a bit. I think the movie is very messy overall, but my God, is his performance in it kind of incredible.
It's kind of phenomenal.
I'll let you rave about it for a minute.
Well, I also won't rave about the film. I've only seen it a couple of times. It's rather slow. it's not one of those films that I feel like I need to go back and keep rewatching. I think probably because it's so damn heavy. Like,
Yeah.
I feel the same way. There Will Be Blood, starring probably the other greatest actor ever. Um, Absolutely stunning performance. Bought the Blu-ray the day it came out. I have never cracked it open because it's like it's so heavy. I'm like, you got to be in the right frame of mind to want to sit and watch that.
Right.
I kind of feel the same way with the Deer Hunter. Like it's not the feel good movie of the year. Um, and those some of those scenes are intense. Like it's, but yeah, I mean, they sell it like that's a lot of people in scenes like that. It would just come off fake, but
Yeah.
it's you believe they went through that.
And that is almost exactly why it doesn't work for me, because it's like a one note plot point that they just drive and drive and drive. Okay, this person is obsessed with Russian roulette, basically, and we're looking at this where you are basically, presenting it as like this Vietnam movie, but it's not a Vietnam movie. It's more of a Russian roulette movie. And the crazy thing is, he is earnest about the craziness. The something is broken in this person, and he does it so realistically and earnestly that I'm not saying I hate the movie, but you could theoretically hate this movie and go, no, he's giving like an over the top amazing performance in a not good movie. Um, I like it, but I don't love it. I really do think that he is the only reason that this movie has the pedigree that it does.
Yeah, probably. Not gonna
Apologies
argue
to
with that.
everybody out there. Yeah, Paul is immediately saying, I adore the Deer Hunter.
Yeah, it's one, like I said. I haven't seen in a long time. But I'm a De Niro nut, so of course I have the 4K Blu-ray I haven't watched yet. But um, yeah, I feel like it's been a long time. I should rewatch it.
All right, I guess we have a different number one. What can you give us there, Craig?
What do you think it is? Although
I'm going to go with Dirty Grandpa.
I did say that there was a comedy in my list, and I haven't named one yet. So yeah, it could be Dirty Grandpa,
It could be, yeah.
which wasn't horrible.
I gotta be honest, I've not seen Dirty Grandpa.
It should have been atrocious, but it was actually pretty fun. No, my
This
number
is what
one.
I actually think it's gonna be, is Brazil.
No,
No.
no. Midnight Run.
Okay, that's a good choice.
His first comedy, and just knocks it out of the park. Like he and Charles Grodin are absolutely perfect. Charles Grodin's like deadpan kind of like almost like a depressed mopey comedy, but then De Niro is just like this uptight, like the straight man. Like it just works brilliantly. They're so good, and he doesn't go for laughs. He's
Nope.
playing it straight. Um, the scene in the train car where he explains the watch, like it's so good. It's a perfect performance in one of my favorite comedies. Like it's
great to hear. That's a good number one. Somebody in our chat, Mr. Sibner, sent me an email, and I want to show you this. There's an eBay listing for the Grandfather trilogy in chronological order, the VHS tapes for $115, brand new, still sealed. The UK release of it.
That's less than I paid back in the 80s.
You can get it now on eBay. Oh man.
Yeah, like you said, somebody's probably just ripped the Blu-rays or 4Ks and
Yep.
reassembled it. um, but yeah, that was definitely one of my premier exciting things about for a VHS release. I was very excited for that.
Yeah, that had to be impressive at that time, especially on VHS.
And that packaging was different than that. That was kind of lame. The package I had was much bigger and.
Well, how many tapes is this? 6?
I think it was 2 or 3. I think it
Or is
was
it only
three.
3? Wow. Yeah, it looks like it's 3.
Yeah, I think it was about 3 because you could fit a little over 2 hours on a tape, and um, yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
that makes sense then.
Um,
I have never seen, and I had to ask because I'm sure you have seen it. How is The Intern? That's the one when Brian was talking about working with De Niro. He was talking about The Intern. I've
that's
heard
funny.
it's surprisingly great.
I know that's one of the new ones I haven't seen yet.
Oh, damn, you haven't. Okay.
Yeah, there's a handful of the new ones that sound pretty good, and there were a couple I looked and you can't get them. Like they're not on disc. I went to Just Watch. You can't stream them. I'm like,
Yep.
what? Like, how do you make a movie and then you just can't? You can't. There's no way to watch it. It's just weird.
It's annoying. And obviously that some of this is not just because of the whole streaming services deleting things immediately. There's certain movies from the last 10 years that it premieres and then disappears. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, so there's been a couple like that. I have not been able to see. The Intern. I really want to see it. I'm assuming that one's probably streamable somewhere. So
I think so.
I will definitely be watching that soon because preparing for this, I was looking at the list and there were a few in there. I'm like, oh, like I didn't know these existed. I need to go see these. Yeah, I've seen some really bad movies because he's in them. Uh, give you some examples.
One thing I wanted to say, and this is going to sound like an insult, but I've heard The Intern is the perfect plane movie. It's like all of the
Oh no,
airlines.
I totally understand the plane movie. Like, yeah,
It's a good time to distract you. It's nothing that's too heady,
yep.
nothing that you're going to get lost in.
The last time I was on the plane, I caught About My Father. Not good. Works as a plane movie. Also caught COVID that same day.
Oh no.
But even About My Father, he's really good in it. Like, it's not a good movie though.
I totally breezed past honorable mentions. Maybe we should go into that first.
Sure. I've got lots.
I had one thing that I wanted to say, and then I'll let you go through everything. My one thing I wanted to say was the year 1997, because Jackie Brown, he's great in, but also underseen for a lot of like today's audience. Copland is freaking great. I love that movie, and
I remember seeing it and don't remember it well, and I actually just picked that up on eBay for like $2.
nice.
I feel like the disc is right over there waiting for me to watch it. Yeah, I remember enjoying that when it came out.
Nice. Yeah, I think it holds up. I just those two I remember hitting in the same year and going, damn, he had a good year this year.
I do see someone asking how the hell Heat wasn't on either of our lists. Because we were limited to 5 films. That's why.
Well, that, and for me, I chose films that I think he carried the film for me. With Heat, like the entire thing is very strong, in my opinion.
Right, and that's probably why it didn't get into my top 5. It's definitely one of my favorite films.
Of course, yeah,
fantastic in it. I remember seeing in the theater, watching that, and when the final shot of the two of them just holding hands, and then the
Yep.
music comes up, I was just like, Jesus, that was such a movie. Like,
Yeah.
um,
And
yeah.
I think he's good in it. I just
Oh,
don't think
he's terrific in it.
I think, and it's weird to say because I don't have an answer to replace this, but I think that he is not irreplaceable in that movie. I think that movie could have been amazing if somebody else played that part.
Yeah, probably. I think it's one of his better. I don't want to call it romantic. The scenes where he's got a love interest. I think it's one of his better performances
It's more
for
realistic.
that type of stuff. Because I've seen a couple others where it's just like even Once Upon a Time in America. There's some stuff where with romance scenes, and it just doesn't come off. It is not believable that he's in love or cares about and maybe that's why this works so well, because he kind of doesn't care about her. He like he sticks to his his principle of like, I need to be able to leave. So maybe that's why it works better. I don't know. But yeah, Heat is
great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right, what else we got on your list?
No Love for Frankenstein. Yeah, No Love for Frankenstein. I bought the new disc, thinking maybe it's better than I remember it, and it's just the whole thing, the whole film, everything about it just felt like poor man's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like
I've still never seen it.
You haven't seen Bram Stoker's Dracula?
No, I've not seen Frankenstein.
Oh, okay,
I've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula many times.
Oh yeah. Everything about it is just. I mean, clearly they were going for Coppola's kind of reimagining of these films, and in every step, it's not as good.
Just got lesser and lesser.
Like the direction's not as good, the set design's not as good, the costumes aren't as good, the acting's not as good, the writing's not as good. It's not horrible, but you can clearly see what they were going for, and they didn't reach it.
Which makes it seem worse than it is.
Right. At least that's how I feel about Frankenstein. What else is on your honorable mention?
Heat and 1997 was it for me.
You need to see some more De Niro.
I do. I really do.
1993 was This Boy's Life, with a very young Leonardo DiCaprio, who, if you remember his early films, was a remarkable young actor. I kind of feel like he's gotten a little away from the acting and is now more of a movie star than an actor.
Well, we'll see next month.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's still good. I just feel like the level of stardom he's reached, I don't know, it takes away from the performance for me a little. I don't know. But This Boy's Life, he plays a young kid. His mom gets together with Robert De Niro, so it's his stepfather. He's a complete ass. He's horrible. He's just an awful human being. And it's a great film, really great film. I highly recommend seeing it. It's funny. It's the I remember seeing it, and then my dad had seen it, and I asked him, I was like, "Did you see This Boy's Life?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wasn't Robert De Niro like great?" And he's like, "Yeah, I really didn't like him." And I'm like, "Well, you didn't like Robert De Niro, you didn't like the character." And he's like, "Oh no, I hated the character." I'm like, "Yeah, that's how good he was."
Yeah.
So yeah, love that one. Another small role, and I don't know, might have gotten my list because it's surprising, but he plays a gay pirate in Stardust, which is based on the Neil Gaiman story. It's got the lead is, I'm blanking on his name, Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil and
Daredevil, yeah.
the Boardwalk Empire. When this came out, no one knew who he was. Because even when I went back and watched it, I'm like, oh, hey, that's Charlie Cox. I'm like, and I'd seen it before. So De Niro's got a small part, kind of funny. It probably doesn't belong on the list, but it's just you don't expect that role from him.
Wow, directed by Matthew Vaughn. I've still not seen this one.
Yeah, it's good. I promised it would be mentioned. The Family. I don't understand how that movie just came out and no one saw it. Like, it's Michelle Pfeiffer, it's Robert De Niro. They're both fantastic in it. It's directed by Luc Besson, who's got a string of films that people love, and the movie's great. And nobody, it's like
Nobody talks about it.
I mean, I don't even know if it played in theaters. Like, it's like a big Nothingville. Like, it's good. And De Niro's great in it. Michelle Pfeiffer's great in it. It's a good film. Yeah, really weird. No one saw it. I had Ronin on my list. What else I got here? I had Ronin. Ronin was on my list. Yeah, we covered, between you, me, and my honorable mentions. I think we covered
everything you're happy with.
I mean, and then obviously the Scorsese films. You know, if this were my top 5 with Scorsese,
it would only be Scorsese.
It was number 5, Deer Hunter, number 4, Casino, number 3, Midnight Run, number 2, The Irishman, and number 1, Raging Bull.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that's 3 of 5 were Scorsese films.
Wow. Yeah. That's less than I thought. I got to be honest.
Well, because Midnight Run is in there, that takes 1 spot, and then the Deer Hunter is it's just an amazing performance.
It's true.
But yeah, we covered the 17 I had.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's first off, it's a long career, so there's so many different strides that you're able to see, and from his super young roles to what he's done now, that he covers the gamut.
I'm thinking a bunch more. Somebody mentioned Awakenings. He was great in Awakenings. It's unfortunate it came out right after Rain Man, so it was just like, it was like Oscar-worthy performance playing a disabled person like 1 year after the other. It's like it kind of got overshadowed. Early film, Bang the Drum Slowly. He plays a baseball player. That was one of the first films of his I saw, and had having seen some of the later work first, and then I saw this old one. I was like, oh man, this guy is just like, every movie I see, he's so good at. Was it Stanley and Iris, Jane Fonda? It's the plot is like almost a made-for-TV movie. Like he plays a guy who doesn't know how to read, and she teaches him how to read, and they kind of sort of fall in love, have a friendship. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see what's popping up here.
Wag the Dog. That's one
Wag the Dog. Sleepers.
I remember seeing.
I watched one that I don't think I had seen from, I think it was 1989, called Jackknife. With he and Ed
brought up
Harris.
Earlier in the chat, yeah,
he and Ed Harris. It's kind of cool. You'd almost think he would have been given the Ed Harris role, because it's kind of the more intense role. But yeah, he's great in it, and he plays a character who's just kind of having fun, which is, you don't see him doing that. Like, he's acting silly, in some scenes. So yeah, Jackknife was great. God, Falling in Love. It's like Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah, like there's just so many good ones.
Yeah, the fact that you can look at some of his younger roles and put that up against things like The Irishman, and they would both make your list. Like, that's That's an astonishing career that you can still be that good, that deep into it.
Well, I think with the Irishman was for me, the Irishman is it's 2 acts to give you the third act, which is the most important. But the third act alone wouldn't have had the impact. So like you kind of had to see the life he led to give you that for the third act to have such an impact.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that third act, he hardly speaks in it. It's all just what he's thinking.
Just an
And
intimidating presence.
well, yeah, but in those in that film though, it's not the intimidating presence. It's the he knows he's dying, like the end is near, and what did I do? My life was. I was best friends with a really famous person. Is the what he wants people to know. But we've just seen 2+ hours of
Right.
Yeah, you murdered people and you murdered that guy, your best friend. Like it's it's so good.
Stan says, can we talk about his early films with De Palma?
I haven't seen those two.
Got to get that Arrow box that they put out.
Yeah, I know. It's been in a cart more than once. We didn't even talk about Taxi Driver, did we?
No, wasn't brought up at all.
He's
all right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and again, he says more without saying anything than any actor I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Taxi Driver for me is every time I see it, I enjoy it more and more and more every single time. And it's reached a point now where I watch it and I'm just like looking at the cinematography and the colors and the camera work, and like it's a beautiful art film. Like parts of it, like there's scenes where just like the street lights and the colors of the red and green from the street lights and the going through the rain, and just it's gorgeous.
Did you get the Columbia Classics with that in 4K?
Of course I did.
Sorry, I asked. I wanted to make sure. Yeah, that's a big one, and that's the type of film that I probably shouldn't say it, but I love these box sets, but I hate that there are things locked to the box sets. Like Taxi Driver is so obvious. How does this not have a massive wide release so everybody can get it for $10 just to see a masterpiece on 4K?
It will. They want to sell out the box set first.
Well, it's been 2 years now, and it's crazy that they've gone 2 years.
It'll come out eventually.
I'm sure it'll happen. Yeah.
We were talking about films like Dirty Grandpa, which is actually pretty funny. Oh God, what's the actress's name from? She was in Parks and Rec. Dark hair.
Ann Perkins. That's her name from this show.
Give me a second. Pulling it up. Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, Aubrey Plaza. Oh, that's right. I was thinking of Ann Perkins. Sorry. I was thinking
the scenes with De Niro and Aubrey Plaza, those alone, worth watching the film.
Interesting.
They're hilarious.
I like her a lot.
She likes. She wants to do an old man, so she's hitting on him through the whole movie. It's really funny.
Interesting.
And if I remember, there was some like outtakes of just different takes of them just being just ridiculous.
Nice. I'll have to watch it.
So yeah, Dirty Grandpa, better than it should be. Grudge Match, he and Sylvester Stallone. Rocky and Jake LaMotta. I mean, that's clearly why they made it. Shouldn't be good. It's not bad.
Interesting.
It's much better than it should be.
I've never been a big Stallone guy, but
I'm not either. Like I said, it shouldn't be good. Like I only watched it because De Niro's in it, and I was like, oh, that wasn't bad.
very interesting.
Um, but yeah, I could prattle on about De Niro films all night.
I will remind everybody, Visitors from the Arcana Galaxy just dropped. Deaf Crocodile, new title coming out on Sunday, getting announced. Seemingly probably a new title every month. That's the way it's been for the last, since the dawn of time.
Let me, I can tell you for sure. 1 second here. Open. I can guarantee you we've turned in all the materials for films up through January releases. So
wow.
So the one at least one a month till then, unless something goes completely screwy in manufacturing. But we're done up to January.
All right, so we got at least through January, and then everything's up in the air. So save your money, buy them sight unseen, is what Craig said earlier. Just remember, we're quoting Craig here. Who cares? Just buy it. Craig, thanks for doing this tonight. Anything else you want to highlight or cover?
We'll probably drop another trailer pretty soon for an announcement for a film that's coming out. Not animated. Really cool. The trailer turned out great. This woman we've got doing our trailers is just she's great. She does such a good job. So that'll be coming out soon. Just watched a short that's going to be attached to another release. Watched that today, and that's super cool. Like, that's another animated film, not one of the three we already announced. So yeah, there's a fourth.
At least a fourth.
At least a fourth. The animation in that one's wild. It's so cool. And it's been a while, but we've got a new film coming out. So
interesting.
2023 release.
3 weeks ago, we mentioned a Kickstarter coming in October. Is that still likely the case?
No. Glad you brought that up. We ran into a major issue with the audio on that film.
Oh.
We're trying to figure out, but that's gonna that pushed that release quite a ways off now. So that Kickstarter's not happening. We probably won't have another Kickstarter. Probably not. Probably won't have another one this year. But we will definitely have some more starting with the new year. But yeah, it was a bummer. I was working through the picture restoration. Things were coming along, and I'm listening, and I'm like, and I'm going back, and it just kept getting worse, and I was like, oh boy.
It's always something.
So yeah, we reached out to John Polito at Audio Mechanics in Burbank. They're kind of the wizards of audio. I think they did the audio for After Hours, which is they've done. Yeah, they do. They're miracle workers. So I was like, all right, if anyone can fix this, they can fix it.
Nice.
So I sent it to them, and they listened to it, and they're like, yeah, we could probably fix it, but if there's any way for you to transfer it again, that would probably be cheaper and easier. So we're trying to figure out, audio. The only thing I hate more than audio is video.
Well, this has been Incredible. I love having you on here. This is a fun night. Really great topic, and right at 3 hours. I think this is a perfect time to call it. Everybody come back next week. We've got Dr. Will Dotson coming on to do our first show of the month, as usual. He's going to be going over some of the stories from when he flew out here last month, since everybody knows about it now. And we will have quite a bit to discuss next week, including the next Deaf Crocodile title.
I'm looking forward to watching it. I like you and Will have good chemistry.
We are doing our best. Thank everybody for hanging out, and we'll see you next week, I guess. And have a good, safe weekend. Till next time. Have a good one.